by suggesting that religious beliefs about sex are unreliable and biased. This false and bigoted presumption presented here is that secular resources like Planned Parenthood and Advocates for Youth are always good and accurate, and while religious resources are always bad and inaccurate. Furthermore, significant portions of this pornographic, misogynistic, sexually corrupting sex program directly conflict with sincerely held religious beliefs and practices or sexual ethics of these religious groups and these faith groups in our community, including but not limited to a desire to teach abstinence education, which the California Healthy Youth Act actually requires and is undermined and actually attacked by this program. Tolerance is a two-way street. SDUSD should be partnering with religious communities rather than attacking them. In a free nation, it is not the proper role of the state to subvert religion, undermine parents, and corrupt our children. Parents should be deciding what is age appropriate for their children, not the ACLU, not Planned Parenthood, and not the state. Thank you.
Colleen Cusack. I'm the parent of a junior in the San Diego Unified School District. I'm also a criminal defense attorney and an educator and curriculum designer. San Diego Unified School District's Board of Education needs to continue to stand with students to protect the current comprehensive, medically accurate, inclusive sexual health education curriculum. Like any parent, I only want the best for my son, including the best education. I want my son to understand and respect how his body and other bodies work and to have comprehensive reproductive health knowledge. I want him to respect all other people and to understand there are a variety of sexual orientations, not all of which he'll ascribe to, and that others are normal and okay. I want him to honor human diversity and feel a sense of pride, and to grow up and have healthy relationships, including healthy sexual relationships. I do not want my son to ever feel shame for his body or about sex. There is no reason for that. It is my obligation as a parent to prepare my child for a successful adulthood, and I have done so. While parents can, of course, supplement the understanding of the sexual health education that their children learn in school, that should not be able to limit that understanding for all other students. It is not too much too soon. It is not enough and not early enough. My son asked me about sex. My son asked me about sex when he was in 2nd grade, and I told him truthfully how babies come into this world. He had already talked to his friends at that point. They had already told him that women lay eggs. I have a friend whose son was bullied and outed for being gay in high school that led to his eventual suicide. This is important for the well-being of all children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Derby Pattengill. I have 2 students in San Diego Unified School District. I've spent quite a bit of time looking at the sexual health curriculum, much in response to some of the concerns that some of the parents have brought up tonight. I do not feel that the curriculum promotes pornography. I do not feel it encourages sexual behavior. I do believe it gives our students critical information that they need. It gives them tools to help them navigate the internet and work within social media responsibly. I believe it promotes dialogue between families, and I believe it promotes healthy relationships. So now everybody speaking tonight, I know that they love their children and want the best for their children. I just want to remind the board that not all families are the traditional nuclear family, and not all students fit into nice, neat little categories. I thank you for accepting this curriculum. It is inclusive and progressive. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Amanda Lay. I'm here on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union of San Diego and Imperial Counties, which supports comprehensive sexual health education. All sex education, including sixth grade, must align with and support the purposes of the California Healthy Youth Act, which include providing students with the knowledge and skills that they need to develop healthy attitudes concerning adolescent growth and development, body image, gender, sexual orientation, relationships, marriage, and family, and ensuring that students understand that sexuality is a normal part of human development. We have a responsibility to equip our young people with all the information they need to make healthy decisions that will impact their future, and that includes quality, comprehensive sex education. Consent, body image, bullying, delaying sexual activity, HIV education, and sexual orientation are covered in this curriculum and are important conversations to have in our homes, in our schools, and this community. The district has an obligation to students and to the law to adopt and teach compliant instruction, which it has done. Rights, respect, and responsibility has been reviewed by a committee of experts convened by the California Adolescent Sexual Health Work Group and is compliant with the law and effective. It's crucial to continue using the 3 R's and make clear to our students and community that the district takes seriously its obligation to provide fact-based, LGBTQ inclusive sex education that complies with the law, that encourages parent-child communication, and that has been proven to be effective in reducing negative sexual health outcomes. We thank San Diego Unified for its commitment to ensuring San Diego's students receive the support and information they need and which the law requires.
Hi, I'm Angie Serrano. I'm a registered nurse. I've worked for 27 years. I'm in postpartum nursing. We hear a lot about bullying. It can happen anywhere that there's an imbalance of power, strong on weak. The height of bullying is molestation of a child by an adult. That is important to consider because you will hear the term sexual rights. The term sexual rights and this curriculum, Advocates for Youth, go hand in hand. That term comes from the sexual philosophy of a man named Kinsey. Look up Kinsey reports. He illegally used children for his research subjects. Sexual experiments were conducted on children by pedophiles, children as young as 2 months old. As a researcher, pedophile, and bully, Kinsey's philosophy was not that children had the right to be protected from powerful adults. No, the philosophy he promoted is that children have the right to be sexual. Well, isn't that convenient for a pedophile? Let me tell you that when I went to that birthday party as a 9-year-old, I wasn't interested in sexual rights. I was interested in being protected by healthy adults, healthy society, healthy laws, and a healthy government from a pedophile and bully who was molesting girls for his pleasure. So where do we see this philosophy in this curriculum? Take the book Perfectly Normal. It's perfectly normal. Look at it. It's a supplemental book for Advocates for Youth curriculum. It has cartoon pictures of children masturbating. When child advocate and teacher Judy Fernandez saw the book for the first time, she said, "What? That's what a predator would use to desensitize a child to begin having sex with them." I submit to you that this government-sponsored curriculum opens the way for bullies to prey on children for their own pleasure. We must stand against bad government whenever it shows up.
Thank you.
We can and must work together to find something better for our community. Please, let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Judith Neufeld Fernandez, Claire Douglas, Carrie Rudolph, Crystal Slusher, Tracy Provins, Claire Douglas, Brex Scotch, Karen Lamphere. Go ahead, if I called your name, just please come forward.
Hi, I'm Carrie Rudolph. I'm here to read you a letter from the President of Advocates for Youth. Dear Mr. Barrera and Ms. Martin, I am pleased to submit this letter in support for your sexual health education program and its benefits to the students of the San Diego Unified School District and their families. We are a national nonprofit with over 35 years of experience supporting schools, training teachers, and creating curricula and resources in support of comprehensive sexual health education. Our rights, respect, responsibility, the 3 R's, a K through 12 sexuality education curriculum from which 30 lessons have been adapted and adopted for the use in this district is based on the National Sexuality Education Standards aligned with the California Healthy Youth Act and meets all 16 criteria of the exemplary sexual health education as set forth by the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Since its release in 2016, over 50 school districts have begun using the 3 R's curriculum, including New York City, New York, Denver, Colorado, Boston, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Portland, Oregon, just to name a few. The students in San Diego Unified School District have the right to the most up-to-date science-based health information, and the current sexual health education program provides students with this information. We cannot protect young people by keeping them in the dark. We want our children to make healthy decisions, form healthy relationships, and have healthy futures. Then we need to provide sexual health information or education that's factual, begins when they are young, and covers the information and skill they need to know as they grow older. Public health research clearly demonstrates the positive impact of sexual health education, including increases in student academic success, delay in onset of sexual activity, reduction in the number of sexual partners, and increases in the use of effective contraception, including condoms when students do have sex. California leads the country in providing students with sexual health education that young people need to safeguard their health and protect their lives. To reverse course, I will end it there.
Thank you, Kara.
I get nervous doing this. Hi, my name is Tracy Provins, and I am a 6th grade math and science teacher at Lewis Middle School in Allied Gardens, as well as a parent of a Marvin student and a Lewis student. I am speaking in favor of this sexual health education program. I used to teach 7th grade science 10 years ago, for 10 years in Cajon Valley Union School District from 1994 to 2004. And when I saw this curriculum and I was taught I needed to teach this, I was thrilled with it and the inclusiveness of it, unlike the previous curriculum I used to teach. Being able to explain the difference between gender identity, gender expression, sexual attraction orientation is necessary in today's world. As teachers, we explain these topics in a scientific and informal way. We are not teaching porn or anything else I think we're teaching. We're teachers. And we are not encouraging kids to be gay or straight or trans or whatever, but we're giving them the knowledge to understand these terms when they hear these terms in the real world. This leads to respect for others and creates less bullying, teasing, and name-calling. It is not too much too soon. Information is power, and 10 days of informative scientific knowledge. As a person with life experience of close friends who are transgender, gay, as well as an educator, I believe that this curriculum will move towards a more inclusive and accepting society that will reduce shame and mental illness for LGBTQ kids and youth. When our youth are healthy, which this is teaching us healthy choices, and abstinence, it does teach abstinence as a key, by the way. Those people who don't think that, it does. Our youth, our future generations will lead successful and healthy lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Slusher. I'm here today as a parent of an entering 9th grader. I've seen the news coverage and the previous board meeting footage regarding the Advocates for Youth sexual health curriculum. I've also read every lesson in this curriculum. And I would like to know offhand how many people in this room have, but I have read it thoroughly. And I can say that as a parent, I'm excited for my child to participate in these high school lessons. I fully support this curriculum, and I find the themes of honest communication, healthy relationships, and overall respect that are woven throughout the lessons to be extremely important. I know that those who oppose this curriculum are organized, motivated, and very, very loud. They're also very mistaken. Arguments I've heard, especially today, against the curriculum, most of them are based on incorrect and misleading assumptions. I can assure you that Kinsey, pornography, hookups, and misogyny are simply not a part of the curriculum. I want to point out that websites that may be referenced in small portion in a limited capacity in one particular lesson are not a part of the curriculum itself. That's one small portion of a website that's used for one particular reason. The whole entire website, not a part of the curriculum. A thorough reading of the lessons should eliminate any doubt as to the appropriateness of the curriculum. I know it can be difficult to stand strong in the face of opposition, but I'm here to remind you that your responsibility is to all of our students. Students who deserve access to factual, medically accurate, evidence-informed instruction. So they'll be able to be properly equipped to make healthy, informed choices throughout their lives. Finally, I'm here to encourage you all to have the strength and integrity to stand by the curriculum that you've already approved and not to bow to the pressure of any of these unfounded concerns. Don't let the efforts of misinformed deter you from providing this education.
Hi, my name is Breck Schock. I'm also a parent of a student at San Diego Unified District. I want to start by saying thank you to the board. I know you have to weigh a lot of different competing interests in the community, and so I salute you for that job. I want to start off also by addressing the nature of understanding. It is one of humanity's core drives to understand the world around them from a scientific perspective, a cultural perspective, et cetera. So I'm here to be for the curriculum. I'm here in support of the curriculum and in support of understanding each other. I also want to suggest that exaggerated, disingenuous exaggerations should not drive your decision here today. There is this sense of us and them. And I believe that we are all the same. Nobody is better than anybody else. That when you dehumanize an other, then you are on a very, very horrible path that is not humane, that is not part of our shared humanity. So I encourage you to take those to heart, to take those ideas to heart, to stick with your original vote for this curriculum, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Lamphere. I am co-leader of the Reproductive Justice Group at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Diego. I am here to support your courage in providing comprehensive and age-appropriate information to help ensure the reproductive health of our students. I am the mother of a successful, well-informed, self-aware 22-year-old who is the product of the San Diego City school system. So I want to thank you for that as an aside. So much has been said that I agree with that I'll keep my remarks short. I believe information is power. Information is empowering. And by providing, again, age-appropriate, medically accurate information, we're empowering our children to make healthy decisions. We're empowering them to respect themselves, to respect others, and again, to make healthy decisions. So I applaud your efforts in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Derek Berner, Nazreen Nabi-Sadeh, John Moore, Summer Boger, and Mr. Brooks.
Is there any preferred order?
No, please just go ahead.
My name is John Moore. I'm a retired businessman, engineer, and resident of the city of San Diego. San Diego Unified High School students failed the high school exit exam at a rate of 70% for several years. Only 30% passed as of 2015. What proof shows that public schools are better at teaching sex ed than they are at preparing students for the high school exit exam? At what point does a graphic depiction of various sexual acts cross from instruction to pornography? At what point does instruction become promotion and approval of sexual acts among children? Sexual allegations against teachers from molesting students in California jumped 70% in 2014 to 328 cases, according to the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, March 28, 2015. California statistics show teacher abuse allegations have doubled in less than 10 years. In the same article, Terry Abbott, a former U.S. Department of Education chief of staff, blamed a culture in schools where no one sees a teacher having sex with an older teen as a crime. We are well on the way to making pedophilia the next sexual preference to be normalized in California public schools. And if you couldn't guess, I am opposed to the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Summer Boger, and I have 2 children in your district. I'm here to tell you why I oppose. I spent many hours, countless hours, looking at this curriculum. I'm really concerned. I looked at the 3 R's, and it led me down a road that I was not happy with. California law does not require sexuality education. Local school boards decide. You guys have the power over what our children are seeing. I'm not here to talk to you about my kids. I know I can opt out. I'm here to talk to you about all of those kids that I care about. I care about all of those children. Annual national reports say that California is getting a C- for their curriculum. And how is teaching children to be busy thinking about sexual orientation and sexual relationships at an early age, helping them with their learning? I think that's a really bad mistake. Also, the Kinsey Institute. Do you know about Kinsey Institute? That is the science and the evidence that they are basing this agenda on that they're giving to our children. This is not about inclusivity. This is about teaching our children hedonism. Anything goes, whatever you like, inclusive, accept it all. It's sexual immorality, and that leads down a road to heartbreak, broken relationships, bad families, lack of education, hardships, being dependent on the state for funding. This is a big problem. Their homework is to go to sexetcetera.org. Sexetcetera.org has articles like trans guys get their periods too and coming out as gender queers. Look at where you are sending these children. It is not acceptable. Take those off of the list of places that they should be going to for homework on the internet. That's ridiculous. Keep sex ed inside Biology 101, please, and stop pushing sexuality education. Here, here.
Good evening, my name is Derek Berner, President of the San Diego Unified Council of PTAs. Our executive board did vote to support the district's updated sexual health curriculum. We know that this topic is going to be emotional for many, and there's never going to be a curriculum that is perfect for all. We do, however, think it is important for all children to receive the teachings that they need to be well informed on their bodies, the changes that they're going through, and how to properly protect themselves both physically and emotionally. We applaud that this curriculum is comprehensive and inclusive to all children. Without this curriculum, kids are going to learn things on the 5th grade playground, much of which will be incorrect information. Let's remember that not all children have involved parents like ones that have spoken tonight that are going to teach them. If it's not taught at school, where are they going to get it? And yes, not all 6th graders are the same. Some may not be ready, and those parents can opt them out. Our executive board does, however, have concerns about the district's communications to parents in regards to this curriculum, which we've already brought to the superintendent's attention. Within our board of very involved parents, there were some that didn't get any communication from their child's school about this curriculum and the ability to opt out. That needs to be addressed and updated before the curriculum started next year. On a personal note, I want to mention I had a 6th grade daughter that had this curriculum last year, and when I looked at it thoroughly, I was concerned that she may not be ready because she was very young for her grade. I was shocked at her maturity level on this matter and surprised how well she was able to process it. Kids sometimes are more mature than us parents want to believe. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Nazrina Bizadeh, and I'm here in support of a comprehensive sexual health education in our curriculum. As of today, the organization Advocates for Youth and their sexual health education program can provide the best way to teach students about their rights, how to respect themselves and others, and how to respond responsibly in a given situation. Fortunately, I personally learned a lot from my comprehensive sexual education. As most youths share erroneous second-hand information, it is important to be educated correctly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mr. Brooks here on behalf of Radio Pastor Ernie Sanders' program and broadcast, What's Right, What's Left. What is the purpose of sex? The purpose of sex is to procreate. In order to procreate for human beings, you must have a man and a woman to create a baby. Anything beyond that is a perversion of natural law and a perversion of God's law in this Christian nation, which was founded under the ethic of Matthew 7:12, effectively codified as, do unto others as you wish done unto you. The principles of the American founding did not contemplate the extent to which our society has descended into deviance and rebellion against the Lord's word, against Holy Scripture. Let me ask the school board, are they aware that the curriculum that is produced by AFY and the book that's contained in that, called It's Perfectly Normal, contain images that are clearly pornographic? Let me ask the members, are they aware that Planned Parenthood is a strong supporter of that curriculum? Let me ask the board if they are aware that Planned Parenthood has been responsible for the deaths of 50 million unborn Americans. That is not liberty. That is not freedom in this country. This agenda is an abomination. Now, finally, let me ask the board members by a show of hands, who among you would consider yourselves cultural Marxists or social democrats?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Board members, questions or comments? Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
I understand that there was some terrible links on the website that have been corrected.
Rachel, would you like to speak to that?
Hi, thank you. I believe, are you referring to this particular images? Well, this particular image where they keep bringing up the Julie Mellons. So there is, we provided, let me start this. Last year, 2 years ago, we conducted focus groups with our students, 6th grade, 8th grade, and high school students who were receiving sex education, asking them where do they get their information about sexuality and what kind of information do they want. Primarily, they all said we Google it. And they all said, we'd like to find information online. That's the easiest way we can access information. So we reached out to districts with reputable sex education programs across the country to find out which websites for sexuality information they provide to students. And we created a list, and we vetted them, and we have them on our student support website. One of these was it's called, I'm blanking, but anyway, it's a website by Advocates for Youth with about 50 short videos on puberty, reproduction, sexual orientation, healthy relationships, gender identity that school districts across the country offer to their students and also teachers to show to students. One of those short videos is called Porn, Fact or Fiction. It's 2.5 minutes, and the main premise is sometimes young adults might find intentionally or not intentionally, on accident, online pornography, which we know is definitely something that our kids may encounter in this world today. And the message is these do not portray realistic relationships. These are exaggerated images. They do not represent intimate relationships in real life. And that there are messages in pornography that can be harmful when someone approaches a real-life sexual or intimate relationship. And the main message of the video is to talk to a parent or other trusted adult if they do find anything on the internet that disturbs them. These videos were created with input from 13 to 14-year-olds, and the exaggerated images in the videos, they're illustrating the exaggerated images that people might find in pornography. Because of the controversy that this one particular video had, and not all the others on puberty reproduction, we've taken the video link down for now, and we're going to be there's a way to select just the videos that align with our curriculum, such as puberty, sexual orientation, reproduction. But I do want to say that I do believe that the point of the video is being very much taken out of context. The point of the video is that online pornography is not a realistic representation of relationships, and to please talk to parents and trusted adults if and when they are discovered. I believe that some of the other websites they are talking about, they went to recommended websites for sexuality information and typed in the search function or they went off the recommended website. They clicked on websites from websites, and so what happened?
I'm sorry, we will be respectful and listen to the speakers.
What happens in that case is they will come across websites that we did not recommend, or websites that are maybe displayed on the side because of a search that someone did are not the ones that we recommended. We're actually working, this is happening across the state and the country because people have such access to online information, that we're working with the California Department of Education on a disclaimer for the websites we recommend, saying that these are the websites we recommend, and if you go off these websites, we can't guarantee that you might not find something disturbing, that these really are the websites that we recommend, and we recommend you stay on the websites.
Do we have filters on are there any filters?
Absolutely. And so if someone searched for pornography in our district, they would not be given pornography.
You have to go do that homework. That's their homework. Yeah.
We remove that homework for now until we can come up with a disclaimer and make sure that we re-vet the websites. But when we went through them all the first time, we did not find any pornography. We do want to make sure we vet them again, so that homework is not a homework for now. It's still a really wonderful website that, again, provides accurate information for youth on sexuality that districts across the country do recommend for kids, so we will re-vet them, making sure we have an eye on the concerns that have been expressed today.
No, the last time when this presentation came up, I was walking the next morning, and one of my neighbors, who has no children, who was a community college teacher, started berating me about it, going up and down, and so I shared that. I did find that, and I understood all of that was off. It's not a link anymore, that it's no longer a part of our program. I understand that young people now at home or wherever they are, they can access some of this information, but I really am uncomfortable if we are not making it very clear to parents up front and getting the message out, and to hear the PTA parent talk about the fact that we had some communication problem there, so that parents know, I mean, all parents know that if they are uncomfortable with this, they can, they don't have to participate in this. I think it really is incumbent upon the district to really ensure that parents, if they want their children exposed to it, then they can allow that. But it shouldn't be that they didn't get the letter or didn't get the information and don't know what's going on, and not have access to taking their children out of this lesson.
Supervisor.
Thank you, President Barrera. Thank you to all the staff for all your work with wellness. Again, keeping our children healthy is very, very important, and there are many facets to it. The sexual health and welfare of the students is just one small part of all the work that you guys are doing, and I really appreciate the full, comprehensive presentation tonight. I want to applaud Dr. John Lee Evans' motion where he not only moved staff recommendation to move forward with wellness policies, but he also pointed out and highlighted a couple of things that I think are important, and I want to thank him for that. First of all, reiterating that we support a parent's right to opt out, and I definitely would like to apologize on behalf of the district for any parents that did not receive clear communication of what's going on, and Dr. Whitehurst-Payne also pointed that out, I think rightfully so, that we need to make sure that we redouble our efforts to communicate with all the parents ahead of time, especially going into the next school year cycle, so that parents do have that right to opt out, and we support that. Second of all, I do think it's very important that we continue to be vigilant and make sure that the curriculum is age appropriate, and that any links that go to anything that is not appropriate needs to be taken down, blocked. And I really appreciate the fact that the staff and the school district has responded quickly and promptly to take down any links or websites that are not appropriate, whether they be homework or in-classroom work. To that extent, I do want to echo some remarks of an individual that spoke tonight that said she taught this curriculum. And I'd like to quote her. She said, in this curriculum, it does not teach pornography. She said, she taught the curriculum. She says, this is not teaching kids to do anything that's inappropriate, because it's teaching kids about abstinence. It's teaching kids about honest communication. It's teaching kids about healthy relationships. And I would really encourage anybody in the community that's interested to take a look at the curriculum, and not just to take a look at a link that the school district has already taken down. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. And Dr. Evans.
Yes, well, we already made the two amendments to the motion, but I also just want to say that as a psychologist, I know that kids of all ages crave and seek out this information, and they are going to get all this information one way or another. Our point is to present it in a healthy manner, because there, we talk about age appropriate, but this has changed radically in the digital age as far as what is age appropriate, because children are exposed to so much more content at such an earlier age that is beyond the control of teachers, beyond the control of parents in terms of what's available. So this is really an important point, to have experts, health experts, parents, and everybody coming together to really get the best information to students so that they're not misled by false information and other bizarre information that is out there. So this is really a good contribution to the health of our students. And I know we're talking about a couple of pages of the slide, and just want to reiterate appreciation for the staff in terms of the overall wellness, looking at chronic illnesses and how that contributes to our absences, and the total social, emotional health of our children, the physical health of our children in terms of the obesity epidemic that we have, and the connection between physical health, mental health, and academic development. We're really committed to educating the whole child, and that means not leaving anything out and not hiding our heads in the sand.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, John.
Dr. McQuarrie?
So, yeah, I also want to thank the staff for a very comprehensive and a well-presented report. I do want to recognize as well the speakers who gave public comments and recognize them for their willingness to stand up and share their beliefs, opinions, and recommendations and about this topic, which is very important to us, and it's important that we understand the issues involved and the public's perception of those issues. Research is clear that a quality educational program includes comprehensive health services that emphasize the importance of safe schools, healthy environments, health education, physical exercise, counseling, nursing, psychological services that support health education and promotes healthy life choices. This is more tonight about a broad-based wellness curriculum and procedures we're putting in place than it is about a single topic or a subject, which probably needs to be continued, and I think we have a framework and a process for dealing with some of the issues that were raised here, and I'll mention those in a moment. It's imperative that we support an educational program that acknowledges and supports the physical, social, emotional, and mental health of all of our students. A healthy student is better able to learn, and providing broad-based wellness services that support best practices and professionally certified and recommended curriculum that teaches sound instructional practices is important, and it's a major commitment of this district. We have a district and school wellness councils that were structured to review the current program, make plans, and develop future programs, and they're in a position to deal with some of the many issues that were brought forth here, and I would encourage people to connect with their councils at school site or the district level. So there's a conversation. It's not going to stop here, and people maybe walk away frustrated from here, and people who have more suggestions and comments, it gives them a place where they can continue this important conversation. In addition, our FACE department has developed surveys that incorporate our Healthy Kids questionnaire along with other questions that staff and stakeholders have, and it's an opportunity to raise these important questions and issue feedback input from our community. So, two ways in which we can continue. The important point is that we are committed to wellness and healthy schools, to a sound educational program that develops our students so they better understand themselves and their community, to feel safe and to feel empowered. We do support education of children in a broad in a broad manner that will prepare them for college, career, and civic engagement.
Thank you, Dr. McQuarrie, and I echo all of the comments from my board colleagues. I'd like to thank everybody who came out and spoke to us tonight. I'd like to, we always thank people who come and bring issues to our attention, but I would especially like to thank people who go beyond bringing issues to our attention and partner with us to actually help us deliver the kind of education our kids deserve. And I really want to commend the entire staff for your presentation. It reflects a comprehensive, understanding of wellness education, both for our students, and I appreciate the presentation on our staff as well. The work that we're doing to try to promote wellness with our staff. What I heard tonight from each one of your presentations, even though it's a broad range of issues, was kind of a set of guiding principles in the way that you go about your work. The first is you reach out to people in the community who have expertise and are committed to working with us to make this district work better. And so the community partnerships in all of these different areas that you were able to show us is really deep and exciting. You then approach your work with a great deal of integrity. You do your research. You know what's out there around the country in different areas and what the best practices are, and then you work with that information and with our community partners to tailor strategies that will be effective for our kids. And by doing so, you're equipping our kids with an incredibly critical part of their education, which is their physical, social, and emotional health. And it's a very clear understanding about how that relates to students' academic success. I think the purpose of an education of a young person is to equip that young person with an understanding of the world and an understanding of how we relate to each other that allows the next generation to move beyond where this generation is. And I think this work that you're doing is producing a generation of young people here in our own community that are going to be able to move forward and move beyond some of the areas that have frankly caused problems for people individually in our society and have certainly created problems for the way people relate to each other. So I think it's a deep and fundamental piece of a public education that you're leading, and we're proud of your work, and we thank you for your presentation, for your work up until this point. Yeah, Dr. Whitehurst.
I want to commend the staff also on your work, because I like the wellness and nursing and all of that and things that you're doing. But I still want to know whether or not I'm hearing the commitment from the superintendent to double down so that parents will get this information.
I just
links are not there.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I just think that parents, we need to make an extra step to ensure that we are not imposing our views about these issues on parents, and that that we've got to somehow or another ensure that parents who are definitely against it can know, first of all, what is going on, and that they can then take necessary steps to deal with their children.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehurst, for emphasizing that comment. We, too, are concerned that any parent would not have received a letter. We did move the opt-out link to a more prominent place on our website because we got feedback that people didn't know where that was, so we moved that. In addition, the schools are required to send out the letter when they start the curriculum, and it's done at different times during the year, so you can't do a district-wide call-out because it's all at different times. However, since schools are required to send the letter, we will add another checks and balance that the principals will verify that that letter has actually been sent home. It's required to be sent when they start it, so any parent that didn't get it, we're not sure why that would have happened, but we will add another check and balance in the future at principal certifying that the letter has been sent home and send that back to the leadership.
You're not sending it to the kids, via the kids. The parents are getting the direct communication.
To make sure the parents get the direct communication.
Yeah, there'd be like a text message, email blast, robocall home. Yeah.
Okay. And there is a requirement for principals to host a curriculum review and an opt-out meeting as well.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment? If not, please vote. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to item E2.
Thank you to Michelle and your entire team for being here tonight.
This item is addressing tolerance through the Comprehensive School Counseling and Guidance Plan. Superintendent, would you like to present the item?
Thank you, and I have another team coming up to present this item. As we transition. Come on up. Oh, I didn't know where they went. Cheryl Hiblin and Stan Anjan. Cheryl Hiblin, our Executive Director of Secondary Schools, and Stan Anjan, our Executive Director of Family and Community Engagement. Do you want me to wait? Okay. Okay. Thank you for joining me up here tonight. We're going to present this item about addressing tolerance through the development of our comprehensive school counseling and guidance plan to make sure that it's clear our approaches in our district happening at a systemic level as a backbone of the way that we're teaching tolerance and giving students access to the knowledge and resources that they need to make sure each and every student in our district understands safe and inclusive environments. So Cheryl's going to begin the presentation, Stan at the end, and then I'm going to have some final comments as well.
Good evening. This spring, the Counseling and Guidance Department, led by Noemi Villegas and Franny Del Carmen, began the exciting work around the development of the Comprehensive School Guidance Plan. This is a TK-12 plan. Okay, this is a TK-12 plan that works to provide a counseling framework of best practices to ensure high academic, social, and emotional outcomes for each and every student in our system. This plan is currently being developed in collaboration with central and site counseling teams to address student goals in the areas of academic, career, and life readiness at each grade level. So you would, there we go. So you would see a slide showing how the counseling backbone, there will be goals at each of the grade levels, moving them through transitional kindergarten to 12th grade. Next slide. Okay. And then at each grade level, imagine if a parent was to receive each year from their school some type of indicator as to whether or not the metrics around college ready, career ready, and life ready that were embedded in that particular grade level were met, and that there were tiers, 1, 2, and 3. An example of this might be college ready, that they were reading at grade level. Career ready, that they had done a job shadow or participated in a student speaker or a guest speaker. And life ready, perhaps that they had good attendance or that they had participated in a club with a certain focus. You know what, you have more luck with this. So as part of the ongoing development of this plan, the department was tasked with ensuring that our TK-12 efforts provided clarity to the approaches and beliefs that were in line with our priority of creating the conditions for tolerance in our diverse system. It was our belief that creating the conditions for tolerance were best situated in our life readiness goal in the area of student leadership, which on the next slide, you'll see the four components. Stan might have to get up. Stand up. No. You'll see the 4 components of life readiness, and we thought that the teaching of tolerance living across our system could really be powerful in the student leadership component. When we look for examples of where student leadership and the teaching of tolerance were working symbiotically, we saw some of the best examples in the places where sites chose to partner with the Anti-Defamation League through their No Place for Hate and A World of Difference programs. Both programs have had a presence in San Diego for over a decade, both through prior board approval and engagement with several TK-12 sites. When we look closely at the goals and learning outcomes of these programs, next slide, we felt that they were closely aligned with the vision and mission of our district. One more slide. So some of their goals are to create a respectful, inclusive, and safe learning environment and community, to build understanding of the value and benefits of diversity, to improve intergroup relations, to eradicate racism and all forms of bigotry, and to encourage personal responsibility in the promotion of justice and equity. And then some of their learning goals, I won't read through each one of them, but these give some really specific outcomes that we would be working around. One of them that I'll just lift is to increase young people's empathy, self-esteem, critical thinking, and problem-solving abilities. So each of these would fit very nicely if we were doing some measurement around the effects of this particular program through our surveys, our check surveys, and other When we look closely at the goals and learning outcomes, of course we saw that they were aligned, and while the No Place for Hate program is the umbrella program, what we were especially excited about in rolling this out was the A World of Difference program, which is the program that would support the training of 30 students at each of the cluster sites to be trained as peer leaders who could work in partnership with our other student site leaders, including our student equity ambassadors, our ASB presidents, and the leaders of some of our student clubs. Because this work is going to be implemented system-wide, we have proposed a 7-year rollout plan that includes 2 to 3 clusters each year. Yeah, go back one. Please note that this does not mean that tolerance will not be addressed before the cluster has had its rollout. This is a plan that is multifaceted and will be implementing a variety of supports from a variety of directions. One example of this is that the intervention counselors and children, youth, and transition resource teachers will be actively engaged in supporting our high priority schools with academic, career, and life readiness in the context of foster, homeless, military, and refugee youth. At the same time, the Anti-Defamation League is collaborating with us on the cluster rollouts. In preparing to request approval from you to move forward with this work, we also wanted to make the following recommendations in order to ensure that the work of the Counseling and Guidance Office moves forward in an environment where each student can have his or her needs met regardless of the reasons for the intolerance he or she may face. So some of the recommendations that we were hoping to make tonight is that we'd like to address bullying consistently and fairly for all students regardless of race or religion. We'd like to ensure that all religious holidays are placed on our calendar. If we place one, we place them all. We'd like to ensure that all of our district efforts pay attention to the lens of race and culture through our work with the National Equity Project, rather than assign staff to work with specific religious groups. We'd like to ensure that instructional materials follow state standards, which requires the discussion of the broader context of world religions, and these materials should be the only tools staff are provided in regards to world cultures. We'd like to advocate for all youth as we serve, but not in the context of religion or culture, and we'd like to support staff in the development of any type of school club and not say specifically it has to be in the facet of culture or religion. Finally, Stan is going to share proposed next steps for how stakeholder engagement would be organized to support this work.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm excited to continue sharing with you and our community how we as a district are moving towards an integrated approach to supporting our students on initiatives across departments, which not only strengthen our services, but ensure that we are collectively accelerating student outcomes. As you've so eloquently shared, Counseling and Guidance will lead the internal during the day supports for our students as it pertains to tolerance. But the work doesn't stop there, right? And so this fall, the Family and Community Engagement team will open the school year by opening the Office of Youth and Family Advocacy. The office will lead a diversity conversation and discussion group that will ensure the voices of students and community members are highlighted and heard, as we plan to name it the Intercultural Relations Community Council. It is grounded in our second equity lever, which is community school partnerships. And the equity lever ensures that families, schools, and community organizations engage, connect, and use partnerships to design and take action on outcomes that benefit our children. The new community council will serve as a resource as well as foster the district as we collectively understand the cultural and diverse needs of our student populations and their families, which ensures the representation of the intersectionality of our students' identities. An example of that is, as we were speaking of students, we may have a student who is African, who's also a refugee, who has a primary language other than English, and so that student has more than just one identity. And we are really looking at our students from a very differentiated lens and ensuring that we aren't just labeling them one thing and giving them a one-size-fits-all support. We want to ensure that we are meaningfully engaging our community and appropriately and intentionally providing the right support and service for our children. Audre Lorde speaks of the complexities of intersectionality by sharing that there's no such thing as a single issue because we do not live single issue lives. This community council will be an essential group in better understanding our students' gender, race, identity, sexuality, and beliefs. This will be the first time we, San Diego Unified, will look at our students beyond only one group, but rather embrace and acknowledge them and their needs, their strengths, and their intercultural identities as children. So we are really excited about the launch of this Intercultural Relations Community Council, as it will provide data, information that will help us drive and better support our students in how we are providing services to meet their needs.
Thank you very much, Stan and Cheryl.
Great. We've got several public speakers, but did we want to have a motion?
I move to approve this recommendation.
Do we have a second? Second? Okay. Okay, we've got a lot of public speakers, so we're going to limit it to a minute apiece. Andrea Sajian, Alif Tinney, Linda Williams, Trisha Gallagher-Gertzen, Tammy Gillies, Lindsay Birmingham, Hanif Mojave, Andrea Guerrero, Mijan Afshan, Aaron Suramoto Grassi, and Fayez Nawabi. Please come forward. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Andrea Isajian, and I have 2 children enrolled in the district. I also taught special education for 5 years and have my master's degree in social and emotional disorders, where I developed programs designed creatively to meet unique needs. I stand here today in support of developing a curriculum involving the anti-bullying and Muslim advocacy, with the understanding that it requires the same creativity. My main purpose for being here is to listen. I wanted to learn what the district's plans are to address these issues, and I was happy to hear some of the things that I learned tonight. I support this sort of initiative because I want my children to go to school and have open, honest discussions about differing worldviews and lifestyles. I want them to understand different cultures. I want them to have resources and experiences to help them navigate through our multicultural community. I do know that there is 0 funding or direct staff applied to this program, and I would like to know what the board's plans are on how to implement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Elif Teni. I am mother of 2 children in Maryland Middle School. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your tireless effort to continue to provide inclusive and quality education for all our children in our county. I'd like to begin by applauding the proactive approach to bring in training and programming to combat divisive and hurtful rhetoric that trickles down from our administration in the White House to some of our families and our schools in our county. As a Muslim American and a minority, I believe that this is an important step forward to level all the playing field for our students who are more vulnerable than others in our current climate. We must show that we are here to protect all our children and provide them with a safe and comfortable learning environment. Let me also add that this is one step forward, however, it falls short to actually address the issue in the immediate future. First of all,
thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Superintendent and Board. It's good to see you again, Linda Williams. And after 40 years teaching K through 6, I am passionate, of course, about protecting all students. And it has been quite an interesting and busy year since in July of 2016, the Board first unanimously passed the resolution to support addressing Islamophobia and the bullying of Muslim students. We have worked with CARE. We have a large community group of dozens of retired educators interfaith, intercultural group that has been working together tirelessly on this, and I am eager to hear how the April 4th resolution will be working into the July 25th resolution. And in the interest of clarity and transparency and communication, I want to thank Superintendent Martin for taking the time to meet with us briefly this morning in your very busy schedule. And I liked what you said, Stan, about the community engagement. Looking forward to being engaged.
Thank you. Excellent.
My name is Tricia Gallagher-Gertzen. Although I understand that the revised plan to address bullying of Muslim students may have been curtailed due to a lawsuit, I believe the plan proposed today, although somewhat vague, is wholly inadequate. The about face, turning your backs to the special needs of a targeted population, is akin to saying all lives matter to Black Lives Matter advocates. As thoughtful people who understand statistics know, Muslim students need special support now with the current state and national hate-filled environment toward people of the Muslim faith. Although there may not be many cases of hate in this district towards Muslim students today, given statistical probability, without action we will learn of these incidents at an alarming rate soon. If you turn your back on Muslim students now with a 7-year role at extending your work with the Anti-Defamation League, how many students will be negatively affected by your negligence? If you move forward with no mention of Islamophobia in our school district, as this current plan seems to do, how will you explain this retreat to the children and their families who will surely come to harm? This is on your conscience. I ask that you create a plan that focuses on religious intolerance and is based in the current state of national statistics related to Muslim bullying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, I am Tammy Gillies. I am the Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League in San Diego. Since our founding in 1913, the ADL has had one mission: to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment for all. That "and" is the most important part of our mission statement. When one community is unsafe, we are all unsafe. We have been, as the ADL in San Diego, here for 40 years serving this community. ADL believes that education is key in confronting and eliminating hate. I've got to cut this to a minute. Okay. Our programs have been created in collaboration with and have been evaluated by Columbia University, UPenn, Claremont, and Yale, among others. Since their inception, our programs have reached over 65 million people, adults and children. Just last year, 1.6 million students of every race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and culture took part in ADL's No Place for Hate program.
Thank you.
We believe that San Diego Unified is a no place for hate place. Thank you.
Good. If I called your name, please come forward. Lindsay Birmingham, Hanif, Andrea. Yep, go ahead.
Hello there, my name is Fayaz Nawabi, and I'm a part of CARE San Diego and sit on the Trustee Advisory Council for the San Diego Community College District. I just want to reaffirm my support of this current resolution. In addition, I would like it mentioning Islamophobia. I think that's very important, and the fact that it's being left out, it's very concerning for me. I think we should mention that in the resolution, and also work with organizations that are specifically dealing with that cultural group, because they're the best organization to work with, because that's from their cultural group and they know the ins and outs and the struggles of that cultural group. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Guerrero, Executive Director of Alliance San Diego, and we are working to build a San Diego where everyone can achieve their full potential in an environment of harmony, safety, equality, and justice. Your resolution is a step towards that. But I want to echo others in saying that it must be more than a general and a global approach to addressing issues of hate and intolerance, when we know that in this climate we have a specific problem of Islamophobia in our communities, and that needs to be addressed in specific ways. It needs to be done so with the stakeholders in those communities, and it needs to be staffed appropriately with individuals from the district who have cultural competence. So please keep that in mind as you're you're hiring out your team. It is not enough to have a global approach. You must have a specific approach if you're going to address the issues and the problems that were presented to you by CARE, which has done an outstanding job in elevating some of these issues. They are a key stakeholder in this process. Please consider them as your partner.
Good evening, school board members and community members. My name is Mijgan Afshan, and I myself am a product of San Diego City Schools. One of my first classes in Euclid Elementary School involved learning about diverse communities and diverse people here in San Diego County, and I was only in the second grade. That has a huge impact on what I have experienced, and growing up in this community, I've seen the changes that have happened, and now with this administration, I believe that it's imperative for the school board to continue their dialogue with CARE San Diego and urge you to please continue this dialogue and working with CARE San Diego to be able to enlighten and administer and find pathways towards understanding in a very difficult time for many families, many of them refugees, many of them Muslim Americans, and most of them, most of all, they're in our community here in San Diego. So please, I urge you to continue this conversation and this dialogue and stay true to your word. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erin Surmonograssi. First of all, I want to thank you for taking this step forward. As the granddaughter of Japanese Americans who were imprisoned during World War II, I think it's important that we address a lot of the rhetoric that's coming down. That being said, I think it is very important to make certain that we are naming specific pieces that are happening, right? Specifically Islamophobia, and that we're doing this in curriculum. When I was in 7th grade, I was very fortunate. The middle school that I went to, the teacher actually brought in someone from the Muslim community to talk to us and explain about Islam. And from that experience, I was able to see that the woman who was there was just like my family. And so 4 years later, when the attacks happened during 9/11, there was a lot of rhetoric that we heard, right? And so there's a lot of things that someone who's in 11th grade could hear and possibly think and be able to judge. But for me, the thing that stood out the most was the woman who came to my class in 7th grade from the Muslim community who explained what Islam was. And that's what helped me. So I think it's imperative that you continue to work with stakeholders in the Muslim community, including CARE San Diego.
Lindsay Birmingham, San Diego Education Association. San Diego educators stand with you in affirming our values of peace, tolerance, and respect for multiple perspectives. That is why a bargaining proposal was passed to all of you, Article 27, non-discrimination, that expands beyond protecting staff. Our proposal expands to include the district providing training PD resources for educators to succeed in ensuring that all students are protected from harassment and discrimination. All students, parents, community members, and staff deserve to be protected, but sometimes that requires us to draw attention to specific groups who are experiencing increased levels, such as our Muslim students. I encourage you to look at this resolution in combination with what was passed in April and not as a replacement for it. In doing so, you are providing the educational support that our educators, students, and communities need. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Hanif Mohabi, Council on American Islamic Relations, San Diego office. I'm the executive director. Love to work further with the district to move forward in a positive way. We have always said that we want to protect everyone's rights. Every single student deserves to have the right space to learn, regardless of who they are, what their religion is. We have never come out saying that it should be only one group. But I think also we should realize that it might be a mistake not to focus on groups that are targeted much more than the rest. So that being said, we expect the district to publicly acknowledge and recognize the work that we have done for over a decade with the school district. And also, we expect the district to recommit to working with us and all the other responsible parties to serve all students.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Atena Mohammed Bayasi, Kevin Iraniha, Amir Nash, Isam Lagrichi, John Michno, Ken Berger. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Atana Mohammadi. I'm a social worker here in San Diego. I also went to school here in San Diego, city of San Diego, growing up. I just wanted to say that, you know, growing up, I think that it would have been really great to have a little bit more knowledge about Islam for the teachers and the students. For example, during Ramadan, if you wouldn't eat, the teachers would be asking left and right, why aren't you eating? If the teachers don't understand what's going on, how can the students? As a Muslim American, I support continued collaboration between CARE San Diego and the San Diego Unified School District, as they are a trusted resource for information. The more we educate and enlighten people on different religions, the less people are going to fear and have hate for any religion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ken Berger, and I just want to come here and urge the board to approve E2 on today's agenda. I think it's really important to have a safe learning environment for all students. I've grown up in San Diego County all my life, and I don't even have children yet, but I think it's really important to start this effort now, so in the future, my kids will go into a better school environment. I encourage the board to work with CARE, as they have a lot of experience on this, and as there's no fiscal impact on this plan, I think it's a great idea to approve it. It can only improve the learning environment of students in San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. My name is Amin Nash. I just want to say that as a Muslim American, I want to implore the school board to continue working with CARE, just to work in specifics for anti-bullying. Personally, for me, when I was in 7th grade after the attacks, I came back home, or I was spending the day commemorating an event, and I was wearing the Muslim skull cap, went to school, and I had a dean tell me not to wear the skull cap. They took me aside and told me this. It was a dean. Kind of stuck with me that a higher representative of the school is the one telling me not to wear the skull cap. So if it starts from the top, if the people from the top understand that Muslims have things that caters to them and specifically they need to work on, then more education, especially working with CARE, who understands our community and understands our religion. If they continue working with these organizations, they'll be able to support the youth and prevent us from being bullied. So, you know, it'll work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello. My name is Mohammed Bayasi. I'm a Muslim American, born and raised in San Diego. I graduated in 2011 with Jeffrey Barrera. We're both, yeah, your son. And so I hope he enjoyed Stanford. And I went to Northern Arizona, yeah. And so I don't want to say back in my day, but back in my day.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while back. Muslim hate crimes were not up 600%. Yeah. And so I believe CARE San Diego is the most appropriate organization to help address the Islamophobia problem, and especially with 600% increase. And I hope, as an alumni of the San Diego Unified School District, I hope that it stays to be a safe place for people to learn of all religions, colors, ethnicities, and I don't think a plan that doesn't even mention Islamophobia is appropriate. So I do hope that the right decision is made. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is John Mishna. I'm with Nonviolence Connections. And I'm just really appreciative of the work that you guys do, of all these beautiful initiatives that you have in this particular piece here. I do agree with what a lot of the speakers have said about how CARE is a wonderful representative of the specific needs of Islamic students, kind of like ADL is, and I'd love them to be part of the plan. I know we have a lot of problems with bullying for a lot of students, Muslims, Jews, Latinos, and time is of the essence. Let us know how we can work with you to meet this challenge that we have, and I appreciate you for the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Iraniha. I'm a Muslim American, also a community member, and also I'm an educator here in the San Diego district. And I wanted to urge you guys to continue collaboration with CARE. They're really properly addressing the needs of the Muslim Americans concerning Islamophobia and bullying, especially even for somebody like my sister who continues to go to the school district and she wears the hijab. And from time to time, you might hear stories where people have said certain racist remarks to her or have even tried to pull off her hijab. So we hope that you guys continue your collaboration efforts in addressing Islamophobia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Peace be upon you. My name is Isam Lagrichi. I'm a community member, Muslim community member here in San Diego, also an immigrant. And as a parent of kids born here and being an immigrant, I do understand the danger of Islamophobia. I'm a big supporter and I have a lot of respect for the ADL. As a matter of fact, you and I rode the same golf cart at one of the ADL dinners. But I do understand also the concern that, you know, for example, if someone is in a operation room and has a brain tumor, you know, you have a brain surgeon and a heart surgeon, you're not going to kick out the brain surgeon and just keep the heart surgeon. So, you know, whatever you guys end up deciding, I do feel that CARE San Diego has, you know, brought up the issue to the surface, has the solution in hand, and I highly recommend and hope that you guys will acknowledge that and make CARE San Diego part of the solution, because we do need a solution for that. And the proof is actually in the room, people calling us terrorists as we're presenting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jilan Mohammed Megahid, Gabriela Contreras Misiri Lioglu, Killian Collin, Steve Slocum, Carol Kim, Joan Little. Let's come forward.
So you're speaking right away?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Jaylen Mohammed Megahed. I was born Muslim in Egypt and was raised Muslim in San Diego. I attended Canyon View Elementary, Mesa Verde Middle School, and graduated cum laude from Mount Carmel High School at the age of 17. I graduated cum laude from Arizona State University, graduated from Barrett's Honors College at the age of 21, and at the age of 23, I had the privilege to graduate from Thomas Jefferson School of Law while studying abroad in Europe as Justice Scalia as my professor through Penn State. Now I operate my own family law and business formation practice in downtown San Diego for over 2 years. I'm also the co-chair of the Lawyers Club San Diego Community Outreach Committee, where I volunteer my time at least 2 times a year at Central Elementary. This academic year, I'm charged with the duty to coordinate the volunteers at Central Elementary. On my spare time, I drive an hour to volunteer at the Restraining Order Clinic in Vista and serve a court-appointed special advocate for children, for foster children. Through the practice of law and charity work, I serve the LGBTQ community, immigrants and refugees, including Muslim women and men. I pose no threat to society, and many colleagues do not know that I'm Muslim. They only know that I'm Muslim once they see my middle name or see me in public with my mom, who proudly wears the headscarf. It is important to dispel Islamophobia within San Diego. It starts with our children's education system in San Diego.
Thank you.
Good
evening. My name is Gabriela Contreras Mistrilioglu, San Diego High School Parent-Teacher Student Association President, and I'm here to basically speak on behalf of the Youth in Transition and directly relate that to the counseling. Let me see what it says, addressing tolerance through the comprehensive school counseling and guidance plan. We want these students to be visible for everybody, for the administration, for students, educators, and we want to provide them with a safe place for learning. We have 2,400 students total, 20% of them are under Youth in Transition, so that would be hundreds of students that do not have a parent or a guardian to speak on their behalf. So that's why I encourage you to include in all these plans that you have, just like you have included Crawford and Hoover, San Diego High School. Please, on behalf of my students, I really want you to follow up on that. I don't know if you would recall this, but we were on the news recently, unfortunately not shedding a good light on our school. Please address our needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Carol Kim. I'm the parent of 2 children in the district. I'm a member of a multi-generational Christian family, and I am here to stand up against Islamophobia. I have spent nearly 2 decades working in education, many of those years specifically conducting research and providing training on the intangibles that create successful schools and positive, strong outcomes in our students. And I can state that unequivocally that things like school climate and culture are a critical component of what makes any school community successful. I think you understand this, and I'm going to say that whenever anyone is targeted with bullying, especially for reasons such as faith, culture, race, socioeconomic background, or sexual or gender orientation or otherwise, it impacts everyone in the school, not just the victim. Everyone is impacted. So that also means that we have to be willing to name and address the specific types of targeting, especially those with increased occurrences such as Islamophobia. Every child, every young person who steps onto one of our campuses deserves a safe space to learn, and I know that you will support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joan Little. I'm a resident of the city of San Diego, and I come to you to commend you for moving forward on this tolerance program and anti-bullying program. I also would like to urge you to make sure that you involve an important stakeholder care as you move forward. I've been very impressed with what they've done in the community. We do know that Islamophobia is really on the rise given the times in which we live, so please continue to involve them as much as you can as you move forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Steve Slocum. I'm a retired engineer. I spent 5 years living in the Muslim world just north of Afghanistan. I raised my 3 children there for the 5 years that we were there. They attended schools where they were the only white faces. I was there as a Christian missionary, and we were treated with the utmost respect. There was no bullying. There was no Christianophobia, Americanophobia. We were treated with honor and respect there, and so I'm here to represent the Muslim community here, that we do something about the clear and obvious gross misrepresentation of Islam that we see all over our media, with education, with actual facts, by people who know those facts, and so that we can extend to the children that are coming here the same honor and respect that was extended to my children while I was in the Muslim world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Killian Collin, and I was born and raised in Iraq to half Muslim and Jewish family. I am also a gender fluid person, and I was bullied for that back in school in Iraq. I was an A+ student when I first enrolled, and after being bullied over and over again, I ended up failing and dropped out of school. By the time going through, I got clinically depressed, and I ended up attempting a suicide in the past. I got a second chance, and I got my GED, and I went back to college, and today I'm in chemical engineering school at UC Riverside. I just want to tell you today that not every child get a second chance, and they are worth it to fight for. You don't know which one of them will be the next Einstein, which one of them will be the next senator in the United States Congress. Fight for them. They are worth it to go all the way to the Supreme Court if you have to. And if you are being sued by the alt-right, you must be doing something right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, board members. We've got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Dr. McQuarrie?
Good, thank you. So this item is not about one group of students. It's about tolerance for all students. All students and staff members deserve to be protected from ignorance, intolerance, bigotry, and racism. However, there comes a time when some groups are threatened more than others, and from time to time, there is a need for a teaching moment for us to focus on a particular group or situation. That doesn't mean any one group is better, different, or otherwise special. It means that at this particular time, there is a challenge that needs to be addressed. There is a moment that needs to be emphasized. There is an opportunity to develop better understanding. The agenda item recommends tolerance for all through collaborative consultation with all community groups in the development and implementation of comprehensive school counseling and guidance. We are emphasizing the establishment of safe places for children to learn by developing cultural competencies, ethnic education, restorative practices, multiple languages, and civic learning. I support the proposed resolution because it supports the establishment of schools culture and instructional climate that stands up for all students and works with all religious, ethnic, and cultural groups. The plan is comprehensive and inclusive and will address academic and life readiness skills, including leadership, social and emotional, community involvement, and civic engagement, and address issues of tolerance.
Thank you, Dr. McQuarrie. Anybody want to go? Vice President Beiser.
Thank you, President Barrera. You know, we've been dealing and addressing the issue of bullying in San Diego Unified for many years. When I first got on the board, we had a partnership, a pilot program with the Anti-Defamation League, No Place for Hate, in just a couple of schools. And as we were looking for partners in the community to try to address ever-growing concerns with LGBT bullying and any other kind of bullying that was preventing kids from having safe learning environments, we began expanding that pilot program and increasing every year after year more and more schools that were partnered with ADL's program, No Place for Hate. So I'm thrilled that we're going forward with even a new chapter in such a partnership so that we can continue to not only create more hate-free zone schools, but also to create a component where we're actually helping to develop student leaders so that the students can then lead and guide other additional anti-bullying programs in their schools and the clusters across the district. I support this resolution because I believe that it codifies this board's commitment and my commitment to making sure that all students are safe. Several speakers tonight did point out some very obvious facts, that we do have from time to time very targeted groups of students that are bullied at much higher rates than other students. For example, LGBT students, Jewish students, as we see anti-Semitism is rising, Muslim students, African American students, Latino students, immigrant children. And so we have an obligation, individual, civic, and moral, to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to partner with all community stakeholders and members, parents, teachers, staff, and nonprofit organizations, especially CARE. CARE was an organization that brought this to our attention. They are a conduit by which parents and students can get a voice. I know many, many years ago, you know, when the Center for American Islamic Relations started working with parents in our schools to try to help them understand that if they're undergoing problems, if their children are coming home after being bullied at school, that we need to work together to try to solve that problem. And I want to thank CARE and all the people in the Muslim community in San Diego for your partnership of over 12 years. And I look forward to the Community Council, where other community members and partners can help us to address this ongoing problem and find solutions that we can all work towards. I believe one person had mentioned that there was no staff or funding associated with this resolution, but that's not true. Because as we had heard from our staff, we already have many staff members that are dedicated exclusively to addressing the issues and the concerns regarding bullying in our schools. So I specifically want to thank my good friend Linda Williams for coming down tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President Beiser. Dr. Evans?
Yes. Well, as Mr. Beiser said, the overarching issue is an anti-bullying approach. In April, when we passed the resolution, we were talking about a specific group that was being targeted at that point. We all know that on the national scene that there are leaders who have, you know, vilified a certain group, and that's what's happening. We through the years, we change from time to time. What is the scapegoat? What is the group that's being discriminated against? Previously, as Mr. Beiser mentioned, we've done a lot of work with the LGBT community. We've focused in terms of academic achievement on African American and males. And many times when we call out specific groups, people say, well, what about everybody? What about everybody? Yes, we do want to make sure that everybody has a safe place, but we have to call out, you know, the specific problems that exist. And I agree that this committee, which is going to be comprised of persons of all faiths and cultures and backgrounds, can all work together, but again, they're not going to just do it in a generalized way. They're going to focus on what are the specific issues today that need to be addressed. And one of the issues that very clearly needs to be addressed today is the discrimination and harassment and vilification of the Muslim community in our community. And one other thing I want to point out as the staff gave the presentation is I really appreciate the fact that the focus is on working with student leaders. Because I know when we started talking about LGBT bullying and we were coming up with district ideas about it, we found out that students at certain high schools were already doing the work themselves and talking about it. And I think if we're just forming a partnership with the students, that's what's going to have the biggest effect. The peers are going to be teaching each other about tolerance and acceptance and working with each other. So that's what I think is a really very good approach. And when we talk about staff and funding, we have, you know, many student leaders who will do it on an unpaid basis, but as part of their contribution to making a good school community.
Thanks for mentioning that, because I made a note about the groups. I go back to Knox and the restorative justice groups there and seeing the students operate, and now you're talking about folding this in. Ultimately, you talked also about having all of it come together. So how do you envision this? I mean, what do you see? Because as Dr. Evans pointed out, now this is an issue, but futuristically, I mean, how do you see issues as they come up, training and keeping students abreast of what's going on in order to have them facilitate something?
So I think Stan can address how he's going to deal with some of this in the roundtable. But one of the things that we were talking about was I was provided with data, some checks data, the California Healthy Kids Survey data, the calls that come in to Unified. And so there were several trends in this data that were, for me as a district leader, looking at all the schools side by side and noticing that there isn't one direction that some of this is going in, but it's very unique by school and cluster. I think that compiling this data and looking at it very deeply and bringing it to this roundtable so that these discussions about are we improving, where are we seeing what type of issue, and how are we intervening, this is going to become very important. And I know when we spoke to the Anti-Defamation League, the word survey, sometimes it's like, oh no, not another survey, but we were talking about how do we use the existing surveys that we have that are getting at certain pieces of information to test our work with the Anti-Defamation League. So this data, especially the California Healthy Kids survey, it was not shocking to me to see that smaller environments had more powerful student agency, and they felt like they could take on the world, and then some of the larger environments. It was very interesting looking at this, and I think we have to pay very close attention to this. Does it get at all the data points that we need to look at? No, and I think we're going to have to get strategic about how we look and track some of that outside of these two pieces of data.
And so building on that, the community is a data source. They understand the conflicts or the issues that arise on a daily basis within their own homes, within their own neighborhoods. And so bringing those community organization partners into that intercultural relations community council allows us the space to present our data and really get to having them also understand, give us information about why the students are struggling. So we're not just saying kids are struggling and they're failing or they're not coming to school. We're pinpointing and identifying the exact reasons because we're engaging the community and having us better understand what the reasons are. And so in a collective effort, as we deploy our services and supports internally, we would also look at what the community organizations and or parents and or families can also do in conjunction with the work we do so that it is an aligned, systematic approach to supporting students. And as we look at that data on a consistent basis, we would be able to see growth over time. And so we should be able to see improvements of, if it's the bullying, potentially through our early warning systems, be able to identify that the bullying has decreased within a specific community around a specific issue or conflict because of the specific and intentional way that we went around supporting that school. So rather than saying we're going to now lift one large blanketed bullying initiative, we're differentiating the supports that would provide the right avenue for ensuring our students are successful.
Yeah, I think Superintendent Martin and Cheryl and Stan as well, that part of what we need to address tonight is when we passed our resolution in April, which was actually signing off on a plan that we had asked for months prior to that. And the reason that we had asked for a plan months prior to that is, as Vice President Beiser said, because we had people from the community, including our own students, coming forward to us and saying that they were experiencing bullying, that they were not feeling safe, that they were not feeling welcomed in their own schools. Just as we have had many other groups of students over many years come forward with similar experiences. In this case, we were talking about Muslim students. And Muslim students were talking about an experience that increasingly, with the rhetoric, as Dr. Evans mentioned, that we're seeing across the country, that the environment was becoming more and more hostile. And the experience of Muslim students was something that we couldn't ignore. And we recognized that that what Muslim students were experiencing at this point in time in our community was not new. I talked about growing up in El Cajon in the 70s and the 80s and seeing what Muslim students were dealing with after the Iranian hostage crisis. It was very real. And the experience that we were hearing from our Muslim students today were in some ways different, but in some ways harken back to some really dark periods in the history of this community. And so we moved forward with a plan to try to address issues that our students and our communities were bringing forward to us. We did it in a way that's consistent with the approach that this district has been taking for many years. As Vice President Beiser talked about, our partnership with the Anti-Defamation League is more than a decade old. Our partnership with community organizations, including the Council of American Islamic Relations, has existed for many years, as it has with many other committed community organizations that are concerned about the well-being of our young people. What it wasn't was the way that some people were choosing to portray it. This was not about promoting a religion, never was. This was certainly not about promoting Sharia law, as we heard some people choose to mischaracterize our approach. And in fact, the more that we heard that kind of characterization of a program that was consistent with providing support and teaching tolerance to all students from all backgrounds and all experiences being mischaracterized in that way, simply, as these comments would suggest, simply clarified the experience that our Muslim students are going through every day. If we were going to hear that as a school board, we knew that our kids were hearing a lot worse. And so, because of that kind of rhetoric, and because of the mischaracterization of a policy that has always been about all kids, but has also always been about recognizing that when certain groups of kids need a special level of support, that this district has always been there and will always be there for those kids. And you can shout, and you can express hate, and you can do everything that you choose to do. But when we know that our students deal with that, we're going to step up as a unified community to protect our students. And so, to clarify, I support this policy, I support this resolution, this recommendation coming forward from the superintendent, because it expresses the values that this district has held dear for many, many years. It expresses the values of this community.
Because you're going to be hauled in front of a court. You're going to lose in front of a court.
And therefore, we move forward as a unified community in support of all of our students, including our Muslim students. We are against Islamophobia. We are for tolerance, and we support this policy as an expression of those values. Thank you. Please vote. Thank you. Okay, we are going to now move forward with item E3.
I'd like to say thank you to Ms. Hiblem and Mr. Anjan for presenting.
I'd like to move item E3.
Okay. Second. Please vote. We've got a motion and a second. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the opening of a public hearing, and we do have two speakers on this item. Francine Maxwell and Tamara Hurley. You have 3 minutes apiece. Tamara, go ahead.
Okay, I don't see Francine.
Okay.
Wow, 3 minutes. I can't remember the last time I had 3 minutes. Hard to follow that up. Sometimes I watch you guys and I'm just totally inspired. With the expanding partnership between the San Diego Community College District and San Diego Unified, I appreciate the expansion of that program, but more needs to be done with respect to ensure that the community college courses that are being offered in the San Diego Unified campuses actually transfer for credit to four-year colleges and universities. I'm going to change glasses here. From what I've been told, articulation agreements for this joint program have been secured from the University of California and California State University systems, but not every student in San Diego Unified will attend a California State public college or university. In fact, low-income students may find, in particular, that some private schools are actually more affordable than their scholarship, because they're scholarship programs that waive fees that the UC programs do not. And yet, even California colleges and universities that have articulation agreements for transfer students from San Diego community colleges don't necessarily have articulation agreements for the identical courses for students who take these courses while in high school or that are offered on the San Diego Unified high school campuses. The case in point is the University of Southern California, which is the largest private university in the state, and with 19,000 undergraduates, larger than 2 of the UCs and 14 of the CSUs. We have been struggling, personally, for over a month for my daughter to receive credit for the 4 community college math courses she took on the Scripps Ranch High School campus with professors from Mesa College and Miramar College. USC has an articulation agreement for transfer students for all of San Diego Community College District colleges, including Mesa and Miramar, and these 4 courses are awarded credit for these particular 4 courses as transfer students. However, USC will not award my daughter credit for these courses because they were taught on a high school campus and not open to other enrolled community college students. Ironically, she opted to take the hit in her GPA to take these unweighted community college math classes in lieu of the AP Calculus because they would have advanced her further in the math sequence. But now she's being told she must repeat the courses at USC. She is not alone. At least 3 other students from San Diego Unified who attend USC did not receive credit for the community college classes they took through this partnership agreement. I've also heard from another parent about the struggles they have gone through so that her child could get credit at SDSU for the community college courses in child development that were taken at Scripps Ranch High. So while you work on the front end to develop more community college course offerings for students, more work needs to be done on the back end to ensure that these courses will actually give college credit to the students who take them so that others don't suffer the same fate. Or we should be more public about how these courses will only transfer to from the community colleges, the UCs, and the CSUs so that students and their parents can make informed choices. I'd like to thank Cheryl, if she's still here, Cheryl Hiblin, Franny Del Carmen, and Genevieve Clark for their ongoing efforts to help my daughter to obtain credit for the college courses she took. And one additional note, this program is not without some cost. Only the first 2 community college transcripts are free. Additional transcripts cost $5 each for students.
Thank you, Tamara. Okay, did we get a motion?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
Okay.
I second.
That concludes our public hearing. Please vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sharon.
Just want to keep the issue of equity.
Yes.
After lengthy discussions about equity in my community.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, please vote. Okay, can we get a motion to adopt the board consent agenda?
So moved.
Please vote. Okay, item
G2.
Item G2, yep. And
second.
Okay. No speakers? Please vote. Okay, item G3. It's a review of our district's practices pertaining to public record storage and production with recommendations to improve transparency, cost efficiency, and security.
I move approval of this item.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Superintendent Martin, do you want to present the item?
Thank you, President Barrera. On June 27th, this board requested that we come back with a report on our process for responding to public records requests, including the recommendations to decrease the processing time and other means by which the public is able to obtain public information, and the records and the recommendations to increase transparency. What you have in this item is a full report that's responsive to what you asked us to bring back today, and I'm going to ask General Counsel Donovan to put forth what we're asking you to take action on this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent Martin. As Superintendent Martin stated, this is the report that you asked for in June 27th. What you will find on pages 23 and 24 are our recommendations for approval of Board Policy 1340A, which will affirm the Board's recognition of the public rights to public records, Administrative Policy 3580, which affirms the district's belief in transparency, and associated with each of those is administrative regulation, which defines public records, sets out the legal timelines by which we're required to retain those records, to direct staff on how they should be retained.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan. We have 3 public speakers, Lorraine Burley, Kelly Davis, and Lindsay Birmingham, and we'll give you 3 minutes apiece. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kelly Davis. I'm the Advocacy Chair for the San Diego chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. And while we appreciate the board's vote last month to delay implementing new email retention rules pending the review of the district's public records policies, we still have concerns with some of the recommendations before you today. One of those recommendations is to retain emails for a year. As I pointed out in my comments to the board last month, other large school districts in California retain emails for 2 years in the interest of transparency. This includes Los Angeles Unified, Long Beach Unified, Fresno, and Elk Grove. And the staff report says that Elk Grove doesn't have an email retention policy, but I had personally contacted the district prior to last month's board meeting, and they told me that they, in fact, retain emails for 2 years. I've also heard concerns from some reporters that they've submitted public records requests that can take up to a year for them waiting for responsive documents. So the issue they bring up is what will happen to emails that are responsive, but you've got this lengthy, large public records request that might take close to a year. If an email is scheduled to be deleted, what happens to it? We're also concerned with the recommendation that employees be responsible for purging emails that aren't public records. This opens the door for important information to be deleted if employees don't have proper training on what constitutes a public record. So we urge the board to recommend that staff consult with outside public records experts on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lorraine Burley, and I'm here speaking as a voice of Scripps Ranch. I'm speaking against item G3. I believe the board should not authorize this staff recommendation to implement the policy to remove email after 1 year. My understanding is that the educational code requires that even the least significant disposable records be retained for at least 3 years, and that the board should not authorize staff to remove. And I think changing the email retention policy from the proposed 1 year to 3 years is a motion that you should consider at a later date. I don't think you're doing a presentation today, but in your slides, on slide 15, you state that the volume of record requests continues to increase, and you gave the 2 past years. And if you ask yourself, why does this keep increasing? Well, the record requests keep increasing because the public sees little openness and no transparency. What were the record requests from 5 years ago or 10 years ago? And my guess would be it would be around 100 or 50. Does anybody know that number? And now clearly they're up to like 250 to 300 a year. And then the other slide, slide 16, which says complex requests have caused delays, and you give an example of computer servers, the computer server crashing, which has nothing to do with denied or delayed record requests, which occurred 14 months ago from the Voice of Scripps Ranch. And bad, troublesome record requests, which cause computers to crash. It really has to do with the volume of the requests increasing. And this, again, is due to the no openness and no transparency and the lack of confidence in the district leadership that the public has. So I request that the board should not authorize this policy to remove emails after 1 year. Now, I did send you folks a letter. Did you receive the letter? That states the actual educational policy, the ed code, which states that the least significant disposable records be retained for 3 years. And so if you move forward, I maintain that you're disregarding the educational code. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDEA. Very brief. I want to thank the district for putting a pause to this back in June when questions were raised from multiple stakeholders. The district staff took the time to answer our questions and create a plan to move forward. I'm confident that this plan has been created and that this will allow these changes to be made with the appropriate background information, with the appropriate directions for staff, as well as the appropriate amount of time to do this appropriately so that we ensure that what needs to be kept is kept and all the junk that's sitting there is not taking space. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yes,
First of all, a question for Ms. Donovan. I mean, we have here the number of days that various agencies, save the emails, 60 days, 90 days. There's some others mentioned that were for longer periods of time. There was also mention of the ed code in terms of records being retained for 3 years, and I'm not sure if that pertains to emails. I know there are different types of records, but if you could kind of clarify that for us.
The administrative regulations before you set forth the education code that was referenced by the speaker and reflects exactly what is in the education code. What we are asking and directing is that records not be retained on district email servers and individual accounts, which is not a secure place to maintain emails, and that we purge our servers of things that are considered not records. And if you'll take a look at pages 7 and 8, you'll see definitions by the Department of General Services as well as LAUSD explaining what is not a record. Interpersonal communications, drafts, things of that nature are not considered records by law. And so the recommendation is to expect staff and explain to staff how and why they must save in their own files where we can find them easily, and we don't get barraged with requests that we have to go through 30,000 emails or 60,000 emails or 6,000 emails that are really not even records.
Okay. Well, we put this item on the agenda because there was a concern, and we wanted to address the whole issue of transparency in general. And one of the things I wrote about was that the first step of transparency is being able to go to a school and find, get questions answered there about what's going on. We have a quality assurance office, which is another way of gathering information. Board members are able to make requests to the superintendent about things we want information on, and those requests are generally at the behest of constituents who are contacting us, and we therefore have a process to do that. The other way we can participate in transparency is through the media in terms of making ourselves available to the various members of the media in terms of explaining and discussing what's going on. Because I see the public records request as sort of the final stage. I mean, in terms of if the information cannot be gotten from all of the things I just mentioned, that's the point where we go. It seems to me with the looking at how emails are retained in various groups, and I understand that email doesn't necessarily constitute a record, but 1 year seems fairly generous based on what's happening around the county and around the state. There's so many types of records. I mean, we could, if we had a recording of every single phone call, there would be all kinds of things. So I guess I would like to add a couple of things to the motion. First of all, there's been a criticism of the district not being responsive to public records requests. And yet we see here information about something like 6 million emails being in there. That makes it very burdensome to be responsive to the request when we have so much extra stuff in there that doesn't really pertain to public records that has to be gone through. So a couple of things that I would like to add are, first of all, if we could have a report in 6 months in terms of what's happening with public records requests, taking the date of this
Point of order.
today.
I believe we have a motion on the floor. Wouldn't this be an additional motion
No, I'm amending
further
the motion
information?
that I made.
Okay, so then would your motion be to adopt the recommendation by staff and
Yes.
then a carry-on motion, add-on motion to then direct the staff to come back with more information later?
No. Okay, let me explain. It is to accept staff recommendation. I'm just asking that in 6 months we have a status report on what's happening with public records.
Okay.
My hope is that they will be more facilitated and happening in a faster manner based on the changes that we're making. And the other part that I would like to ask, and I'm not specifying how to do this, but that all of the employees get information on how to store public records, because it's been pointed out that having on the email is not a secure means of restoring public records. They need to transfer those specific public records to files. So to do this, I'm just saying we adopt the staff recommendation. We just have a status report in 6 months, and then there'll be information to employees of what to do in terms of transferring emails to public records. I believe you seconded it. Is that amenable to you?
No, Sharon.
Oh, Sharon. Oh, excuse me. Is that amenable to you?
It's an amendment.
Dr.
Whitehurst Payne, do you accept that? Okay. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I can't remember who started.
You did it.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. First of all, Kelly Davis with the Society of Professional Journalists had mentioned that a variety of school districts have a 2-year retention policy. She specifically cited LAUSD and Long Beach. And then the next speaker had mentioned that Ed Code requires that all things be retained for 3 years. Does that mean that LA Unified School District and Long Beach are violating California State Ed Code?
No, as I explained, the administrative regulations in AR 3580A contain what are required to be saved, and it is 3 years. But LAUSD also has very clear instructions on what is not considered a record. And there are many things that are not considered records that are simply parked, which is why we have 576 million emails on our servers.
Right. So basically what you're saying is LA Unified School District and Long Beach School District are not violating California Ed Code?
Not in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. No further questions or comments? Please vote. Great. Okay, can we get a motion to adopt item G4? This is the adoption of the CSBA board policies.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Okay, can we get a motion to approve item H3? Well, this is the public hearing.
Public hearing.
Sorry.
Mr. Beiser did not vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Well, I didn't register.
Okay. Okay, we've moved on to item H3.
I move this item.
Thank you.
I already moved it.
Okay.
Well, then I second
Mr.
it.
Beiser moved it. We've got a second. Are there any public speakers?
Well, we had to go back after
No.
the button
Okay,
was
please vote. Okay, item H4. This is an update on our drinking water.
So moved.
Second.
Do you have a second? And Superintendent Martin.
Thank you, President Brewer. I'm going to ask Drew Rowlands to come up to present this item. It's our drinking water update and the follow-up plan that the board asked us to come back with. It's to adopt our new district-wide action level for lead in drinking water and the development of our remediation plan so that we can meet the new standard and establish the ongoing water sampling program. And Drew will walk us through this presentation that was requested by our board. That's it. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. As Superintendent mentioned, in late April, we had presented our initial plan on water sample testing, water testing for lead in our drinking water. provided some initial results. At that meeting, you asked us to come back with more detail and to look particularly at the samples that were in that range of 5 to 15 parts per billion. 15 parts per billion being the state established action level, but we wanted to see those samples in between. So we'd like to provide a quick status update on where we got with the city testing and then talk about that follow-on plan. And I got to click on, somebody's clicking for me, great, thank you. So just very quickly again, the city testing is completed. They took 960 samples for us. We had a total of 57 samples that were over 5 parts per billion, with only 4 of those exceeding the action level. You've heard it many times, but I think we can't say it enough that the city was a tremendous partner in carrying this out. They responded quickly and were very professional in this testing process. Oh, sorry, that's okay.
Now it's going too fast. It won't work for the other people. With the support of the county health and other providers, we also, we did have one test that was high at Bernie High School, or Bernie Elementary School, that was above the allowable limit, and with that we did follow-on blood level testing of students with no results exceeding the blood levels. I guess one other, it's been a district team working through this: safety, PPO, communications, legal, nursing, and wellness. So we've all been working together to move this project along. And then we are in the midst of continued district testing. The requirement for the city was to only test K-12 school locations. We internally have picked up other areas, such as standalone child development centers, administrative sites that weren't covered by the city's testing. We will wrap all of that up. There's just a few stragglers that we will not get to until September when students are back in school, but we will very shortly finish up and then have a representative sampling of every district site completed. And just in summary, again, 960 samples taken. 94% of those samples were non-detect. Then you see the slices of pie with that very narrow yellow wedge that were actually the 4 or 0.4% of the samples that were actually exceeding the 15 parts per billion of the state requirement. Again, just looking at it a little differently, if you stay there for just 1 second, key thing to realize here is 155 of the 193 sites that were sampled, of the 5 samples conducted by the city, had no detected levels of lead in them. And then you can see where we had 28 schools with 1, 6 schools that had 2 samples that were, again, in that range. So we have 38 school sites that have some level of lead in the testing performed by the city. Again, just slicing and dicing with the type of school that encountered these test results. So when we look at basically the board tasking to staff, and when we looked at where do we go from here, we're proposing a plan that no drinking water outlet will have a lead content above 5 parts per billion across the district. As we all know, lead is a bad thing. Plenty of people, the State Water Board, EPA, Center for Disease Control, all acknowledge that there is no safe level. We're moving the district close to that level. 5 ppb, again, 1/3 of the established level of 15 parts per billion. It's in line with where we are with our current sampling. As you will recollect, the state sampling to the city, the minimum detection level that they established in that sampling process was that same 5. We have supportive infrastructure both in the water provided by the city and the distribution systems, as well as our own district plumbing that allow us to get to this 5 part per billion goal across the district. And then, interestingly, 5 parts per billion of lead content is the Food and Drug Administration's requirement for bottled drinking water. So again, we thought there was good consistency and alignment there. How do we get there if we want to go to that plan? We laid out these 5 steps. Obviously follow through on what the city has done already. Then we see it as testing the remaining water outlets across the district, remediating those, and I can get into a little more detail further on here, maintain our flushing protocol until we're through this work,
and then there will be some follow-up and continued future work with us, with the process. In total, we're talking about 7,200 water outlets across the district. To be honest, we don't know absolutely, certainly how many, but it's right in that range. That's drinking fountains, water faucets used in kitchens for food preparation. So if you look at it and say the city has tested about 1,000 of those, we would have another 6,200 or so to go. Again, from the city testing, we have 57 water outlets at 38 schools. We're remediating and are nearly done with those that were over 15 parts per billion, and we want to get all of those down below 5 parts per billion. When we talk about remediation, it's the work either repairing, filtering, removing from service, and then when we go through on a school site, we want to try to walk away leaving the entire, or will walk away leaving the entire campus, not just that single outlet or that single one that had a high test, but the entire campus in good shape and below 5 parts per billion. Again, picking up the testing of the remaining water outlets of the district, we would follow the same state protocol that's established and that the city followed. That's taking a 1 liter first draw, first use of the morning sample from the drinking outlet during normal school operations. If you recollect, the state testing requirement wouldn't let us test on a Monday morning, for example. School had to happen the day before with our testing. So we'd follow the same protocols. There's a minimum of 6 hours of testing where the water needs to be stagnant in the line before we take our test. We believe that our testing with the city, we are probably closer to 10 or 12 hours of water in line before the test, just because we tagged the outlet out the afternoon and evening before and then tested early the next morning. So we got somewhere in that range. And then again, sample will be taken by district staff but handled by a certified lab that will do the testing. Again, it's in the neighborhood of 7,200 outlets across the district. Let me see. One of the discussion points, we did run this plan by CalPERD, and we've been having a dialogue with them. One of the discussion points with them is a concern for having a longer stagnation period. In their mind, a child may drink from the water fountain on Friday, goes away, school sits empty all weekend, and then the student comes back on Monday and again uses the water fountain. So in their mind, could you have a longer stagnation period? Again, we've talked with them, and I think where we've left it, and you'll see it further in here, is we do have a longer stagnation than the 6 hours required by the state, and then we have a plan in our flushing that will address some of that Friday to Monday concept as well. But we want to try to replicate the real world experience as best we can in our testing. Test it, then remediate it. If we follow the same pattern that we saw with the city testing, we had 5.9% of our samples exceeding the 5 parts per billion. Again, following that through, we would expect to encounter another 360-ish outlets that would give us a result over 5 parts per billion. We want to follow along as we have, testing, closely follow with remediation. Remediation methods are, again, the idea of plumbing repair, replacing the fixture, replacing the plumbing. That is our preferred method. There is some talk of use of filters. Our hesitancy with filters are that it generates a recurring cost. We would like to go in, fix it right one time, and be done. So that is some of the discussion that's happened. Again, just more discussion on remediation methods. I would say, again, filtering is a concept we actually are using at Bernie Elementary in some of the rooms, And what I would recommend is let the mechanics and the planners figure out the best course to remediate. In the case of Burney Elementary, it would be very intrusive to get to the valve and the plumbing that we believe are causing the problems in some of the older classroom buildings. We'd be tearing into walls, tearing out cabinetry. So when we look at that, we say, in this instance, filtering is a better method to get us to where we want to be. But we have the idea of plumbing repair, installing filters, and then even the idea of potentially consolidating, taking some drinking fountains offline and replacing it with, for example, one bottle filling station in a more, with a filter, but in a more central location, for example. We believe that's probably a better application at a high school and middle school, not so much at an elementary school. But again, that's all kind of in our toolkit to resolve these things. As I mentioned, flushing protocol. Right now we have a daily flushing protocol when school's in session. 1 minute each water outlet. Obviously that's a burden. Takes an effort, takes time. Wastewater, we want to get out from underneath that. We know that that's only should be an interim measure. As we work through our follow-on testing, we want to be able to release the school site, be confident that we've tested everywhere at the school site, and remediate where need be so that we view the school site as being under that 5 parts per billion throughout, and then we would relieve the school site of that daily flushing. As I mentioned, some of our discussion with CalPERG is that we would still consider and plan a Monday morning, first day of the week flushing that does get that longer term water stagnation out of the system.
So, excuse me, the schools that where no lead or no significant lead was found, are they still doing the flushing? Because I had a principal ask me about that.
Yes, yes they are, or we expect that they are. And the reason behind that is we've only tested up to 5 outlets on the campus, and we really don't know what's going on with the others, and the lead contamination can be rather unique and specific to the outlet, the fixture, the plumbing leading up to it. So that's why they're
flushing until all of the outlets have been checked.
Yes,
is that correct?
That would be our intent. Yes.
Okay.
And then again, what we've woven into our plan is that a Monday morning, a Tuesday morning after Memorial Day or whatever, that there is a flushing going into that, and we do want to make sure that we're putting out to our custodial staff, for example, coming back from summer break, that we do a very good effort to make sure we've done that flushing with the start of the school year. Future steps, once we get our way through this, we obviously want to make sure it's working as planned, so we want to do some just quality assurance testing. Initial thought is that we'd sample somewhere on the order of 2% of our outlets each year. If we find indications that things aren't going where we expected them to be, we would look at increasing that testing level. And then one of the other discussions with CalPERG was our third bullet there, revisit this entire process and concept no later than 2020 and look for options to take that number even, that threshold even lower, potentially to 1 part per billion. That's really where CalPERG would like to be. But that is a much larger effort than where we are right now. Next one, please. Here's our basic approach and timeline that we would carry this out. Conducting the testing and remediation with existing staff, reprioritizing our work because we are using within existing staff. We have some of our safety team that will actually be doing the sampling, and our maintenance staff of planners and plumbers that would be doing the remediation work. So just to plant that seed with you, we believe this process would take us 3 to 5 years, probably closer to the 5-year mark. But again, that is where we are with it. If you picture that bar graph, we would basically work the right edge to the left. Hit those schools with the highest number of samples, positive samples, and work to the left. I think that's it for that one. I feel like we did a very good job with our communication and transparency through this testing process, and our intent would be to continue this. We had notification processes when a school encountered 15 part per billion sample. We would basically have that same process in place as we were working through 5 part per billion samples, and then again, we got pretty good at quickly posting the sample test results on the website. So we would continue that just so the information is out there and available. Cost impact. This slide kind of captures all of what we believe the estimated effort will be to perform this work. Again, as I mentioned, we expect to do the work with in-house staff. We expect to do the remediation work from within our maintenance budget. The thing that you will see, the item that you will see within the board report is the $200,000 for the laboratory cost, the analysis of the water samples. We believe that's the estimate to perform these tests of approximately 6,200 water outlets, roughly spread out over 5 years or so. We're talking $40,000 to $50,000 per year for the next few years to get through it. But I know there's a little confusion on this one. I just kind of clarify the new money in the process is for the laboratory analysis of the water. I guess one thing I don't believe I touched on is our intent is with the 57 outlets that were identified in the city testing, they will either be offline and supported by a bottled water drinking station or remediated on the first day of school is our intention, is where we're getting to.
Thank you. We have, thank you, Drew. We have one public speaker, Amy Redding. You have 3 minutes, Amy.
Good evening. I'm Amy Redding. I'm the chair of the Kearney Neighborhood Schools, and more importantly tonight, I'm a member of the Fletcher Elementary Birdland community, where low levels of lead were detected in the drinking water. I did always tell my children not to drink out of those fountains. Now I'm right. I wanted to thank the district for its diligence, its honesty, and its willingness to reach out to those in the know to formulate good policy and procedures to ensure a safe drinking supply for students, and in the case of Fletcher Elementary, a joint-use park, the entire Birdland community. Your plan addresses both short-term and long-term issues. It recognizes the need for equity among our schools. Every student deserves drinking water with undetectable levels of lead. I hope to report to the Fletcher community tonight a vote for undetectable levels of lead at all sites. I look forward to seeing the specific plan for Fletcher Elementary, and perhaps the Fletcher PTA will take up the district on its offer to come share the importance of water safety, the short-term plan for Fletcher Elementary, and the district's plan for ongoing monitoring and upgrades. We look forward to developing our partnership with the district office on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Waters-May.
I hope that we can get periodic reports over the years as you move forward.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming
Certainly.
we passed it.
Yeah. Vice President
But I'd
Biden.
like to, it doesn't have to be a board report, but at least keep us informed.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple questions. You had said that ongoing lab water testing costs would be about $200,000 a year, about $40,000 a year, or a couple $100,000 over several years. Isn't it the responsibility of the water authority agency to pay for water testing expenses?
No, the city has met their obligation basically in this process in the 5 samples per site.
Okay, so state law says that they only have to sample 5 sites per school?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. In their water permit through the State Water Resources Control
Okay,
Board.
so the State Water Board says that, the cities that give schools water only have to test 5 water sources at every school?
Yes.
Okay. But your plan is to go and test all the other sources, correct?
Correct, all the other outlets.
Okay, and how long did you want to do that, to take that, your plan?
Between 3 and 5 years to get through that.
Okay. Is there any way we can do it faster?
Well, I think part of it, if you look at it, I mean, this was a fairly significant effort with the city and the support that they provided to get through 1,000 samples, this fall or this spring, right?
Yeah.
And it's still kind of working through. Even to do this in 3 years, you're talking of doubling that amount of effort. And again, we're talking about with in-house resources to do that who had frankly had full-time jobs before this.
Okay. Is there any way that we could ask the city with their resources if they could help us accomplish this goal in some way, shape, or form, an expedited timetable?
We can always ask. I can tell you the city is looking. They're talking about reimbursement from the state for the work they did for us.
Right.
They have mentioned that the effort in supporting us was about $500,000 for them to do.
Yeah, and we really appreciate your work getting that partnership with the city and expediting testing, you know, so many schools so fast. It's just incredible work, and I really appreciate you for that. You had mentioned that there were also some, concerns about the stagnation period of 48 hours and things like that that were brought up. And could you explain a little bit more about this, the proposal by CalPERC to have a 48-hour stagnation period? What do they mean? They want us to leave the water in the pipes for 48 hours, or what?
Sure. So we've had a dialogue with CalPERC about this plan, and it's an ongoing dialogue. We actually still shared some fine-tuning on this today that we expect a response from them tomorrow on.
Oh, good.
So we've had an ongoing dialogue. They really had, when you boil it all down, they had 3 key issues. One, they would really like to see that goal or objective be at 1 part per billion. So that was one thing. 2 was the stagnation, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. And 3 was the idea that we said we would follow the state testing protocol as established, just as the city did. One of the things the state testing protocol allows you to do is you get a test that has a result above the action level. You can hold off and go through a resampling and a confirmation testing and basically get 2 out of 3 before you say you have a problem. That's allowed in the regulation. We didn't do that with the city, and we don't intend to do that now. So we're very much aligned.
That's an easy one to agree with
CalPERC. Yeah.
Okay.
So stagnation, the longer the water sits stagnant in the pipe, the more lead is going to leach into the water. I mean, that's just a basic fact. It's just the corrosion activity and all that. So I think, not speaking for CalPERC, but what we heard from them was, you know, the state requirement to the city was test 5 water outlets, test the 5 most frequently used. Don't even test them on a Monday because you didn't have school the day before. In CalPERC's belief, you're testing best case scenario. What they believe should be happening is test worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario in their mind would be something like a more seldomly used water fountain, one that hasn't been, or like we would encounter, hasn't been used since Friday, and now here we are on Monday.
Right.
So that's where they are. What we, I think there are some difficulties, and part of what I explained to the representative from CalPERC, there would be some difficulties in carrying that out. If you said, let that drinking fountain sit for 2 days before I come back, you know, from the time
and test
no one uses it, tag it out, and then come back 2 days later and test it. That's hard to control that. That's hard to say someone hasn't walked by and played with the fountain and run the water, and then we're no better off. Because part of the process, activating a valve, securing, you can't turn the water fountain off, you know, beneath the cabinet or whatever, and then come back and turn it on and test it, because then you've already blown the test. So you have to have the test, the water fountain available on. So what we do is go to the school site after dismissal, tag that water fountain out, and then come back the next morning before the school bell rings, before someone's had a chance to use it, and take that test. Okay. So we're getting more time than the 6 hours required by the state, but probably not as much time as CalPERC would ideally like to see.
So you're going above state law mandate. Right. And we're trying to, you know, find a compromise.
Correct.
There.
And then the other part of that compromise was if we were to flush a drinking fountain on Monday mornings when we come back in once a week and do that as our plan going forward, then we really kind of, we've nipped that peak period. We've nipped that Friday to Monday discussion. Right. So then really it's only ever going to be 1 night stagnation period anyway.
Sure.
So that's our thought of getting to that.
Okay. I would really like to thank Superintendent Cindy Martin, because this is a perfect example of when the board wants to do something and votes 5-0 to ask the superintendent and staff to come back with a plan to go and do something, and the plan that has come back timely, thoroughly, and is absolutely responsive in meeting the intention of the board, I believe, in the motion that I made. And I really appreciate you, and thank you, Cindy, for doing this. Thank you.
We met with a bunch of legislators from the state, and they were promising the moon at that time. But are we getting any money back from them? I mean...
There is, within this, there was a statewide grant for some lead remediation work. We are looking at that. It's the guidance on that grant only came out probably a month ago. And we are trying to catch up with some of our remediation work and apply for that grant. It was, I believe, $9.5 million statewide, so it's not a lot of money. But we will, we haven't made the submission yet, but we know we have to, and we are working towards that.
The state's good at making commitments, and we're good at carrying them out. Drew, is there any portion of our bond program that can help pay for these costs? Or does it have to be borne by the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance budget?
It's a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There's actually some amount of bond funding for maintenance repairs within the maintenance budget.
Yeah.
And so where we have the scale of the project aligns with that, we would use that. So it is a little bit of a mixed bag. I think Lee would tell you we can't, for example, replace filters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
sure.
not something like that.
Yeah,
but there are, these are to date they have been relatively minor one-offs that we've been chasing.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, Dr. McCord.
I did want to pile on and add on because others have already made the point. But thank you and your team for everything you've done to get on this issue and get on it quickly and to resolve it. And then I'm wondering, we've had the lead paint. We went through asbestos, and now we're dealing with lead in the water. Can you look ahead and see what might be coming next?
I'm not sure we want to have that discussion right now.
Yeah, boy.
But thanks for being proactive.
Sure, thank you.
And do we have a motion?
Yeah.
We do. And a second? All right. Please vote. Thank you. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Superintendent Martin. Okay.
Thank you, Drew. I also wanted to recognize that our Director of Government Relations, Kai Jackson, is in the audience, so he listened very carefully to your question about the state, and he was at that meeting with all the elected officials and the promises, so thanks for being here for this item tonight too, Kai.
Item H5, our 2018-19 instructional calendar recommendation. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. This item H5 is the approval of the 18-19 instructional year calendar. The recommendation that I'm bringing forward this evening is to continue with a pre-Labor Day start in 2018, which will be the third consecutive year of beginning the week before Labor Day, beginning the year before Labor Day. This recommendation is for 1 year only. It's for the 2018-19 school year, and the recommendation is on today's agenda to ensure that the 1 year lead time is provided to parents, staff, and community to be able to prepare for the 18-19 school year. I want to mention that the Instructional Calendar Committee did provide me with its recommendation for reverting to a post-Labor Day start in 18-19, and I have thoroughly reviewed their recommendation, the issues, and the impacts to the district that the Calendar Committee deliberated on as a group and with their respective stakeholders in the revised process that we put together this year. The topics that they discussed thoroughly and brought to their stakeholders are outlined in the agenda item, and I've also taken into account the Instructional Calendars Committee's vote was extremely close. The committee consisted of 32 voting members, comprised of half parents and students and half staff, which was a change from previous years based on feedback that I had received previously. This committee's recommendation to revert to post-Labor Day start in 18-19 came from a vote of 26 of those 32 voting members, with nearly a split vote of 14 to revert to post-Labor Day and 12 to continue with pre-Labor Day start. 6 members of the committee were not present for the vote, and they had established at the beginning that all needed to be present for the vote. I do truly value the hard work that this committee put in, the time that they took away from their families and from their work to be able to participate in the process that was used to develop the recommendations. It was a difficult decision for me to not go with the committee's recommendation. I did not take this decision lightly. While we continue to have schools on year-round schedule, the options for fall start dates are extremely limited. As I presented in the attachment to this item, all public school districts are going to begin prior to Labor Day in 2017, and it's expected that this will continue in 2018. With a start date in the last week of August, San Diego Unified continues to be one of the latest start districts in the county. That's my recommendation for the year ahead for 18-19.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Martin. We've got several public speakers. We'll allow 2 minutes each. Heather Worms, Derek Berner, Sabrina Hanlon, Lindsay Birmingham, Tamara Hurley.
Hi. My name is Heather Worms, and I'm one of 2 cluster Congress representatives serving on the calendar committee this year. I represent all 16 clusters in San Diego Unified. I was hopeful because the district addressed previous concerns regarding the makeup of the calendar committee and the lack of parent, teacher, and student representatives, people that make up by far the largest stakeholder group. In response to the concerns, the district set up a process that was collaborative and mostly transparent. For more than 8 months, volunteers representing all stakeholder groups worked countless hours meeting, researching, analyzing data, polling stakeholders, and collecting information. At the end of April, 3 months ago, this group voted and arrived at a recommendation of a post-Labor Day start date. Regardless of the vote numbers, the majority did vote for post-Labor Day. On July 7th, Superintendent Martin put forward and submitted a proposal that differed from the calendar committee recommendation. Many calendar committee members were extremely upset this weekend to find out that this proposal was put forward without any communication from calendar committee leadership. Though I do appreciate the personal phone call yesterday evening from Cindy Martin explaining her reasoning, I'm still really disappointed that the leadership didn't reach out and only did after several of us sent emails to the board questioning the proposal. The calendar committee did what it was asked, yet the recommendation is not being put forward. My statement tonight is more about the process than the actual start date. San Diego Unified already has some big public relations issues, which became glaringly obvious with its major budget crisis. This is a chance for you to show your constituents you are supporting the process in place and listening. You will continue to lose credibility if you do not. I urge you to vote against the proposal and to go with the committee's recommendation. Thank you.
Sabrina Hanlon, Para-President. I too am disappointed with the process and the outcome. We worked hard. As you were saying, it was our free time, or what free time, little free time we usually have. Anyway, I appreciate actually today receiving an email from Melissa via Dr. Michael asking what our, what was our reasoning for our choices and how did we choose. And I told him there was multiple reasons, but my group's biggest issues were the fact that when we presented the data that was given to them, it seemed that CIF and AP courses were driving everything. And that's a very small percentage of student enrollment, people that play sports and or are in an AP class. It's 1 grade level out of 12. Plus the fact that we still have schools that are on year-round calendars with parents with multiple students in different grade levels. It's just, causes havoc. I realize they all start at the same time, but you've got this short window in the summertime when they have together. But looking at that, and if you do approve this, I noticed that there are not, and my members primarily run off of student calendar. Our work year runs to a student calendar year. There's only 192 work days paid right now on this calendar. I implore you respectfully and ask you to add the extra 1 day to make the 193 that we're currently furloughed at the beginning of the school year, so that my members have the opportunity to come in, read IEPs, meet teachers, get some professional development, do the safety coursework that's required of them by October 1st, and utilize that 1 day, because you're going to have to pay them for a day to come in and work, utilize that 1 day to get things accomplished at the start of the year, not at the end of the year cleaning. Thank you.
Hello, Tamara Hurley. You've seen me before. I'm very disappointed in how this process was handled. After the calendar committee's last meeting in April, I was planning to come down to the board meeting and say this was a good model on which to build district committees. It wasn't perfect, but it had better stakeholder representation than other district committees. We used factual information and data analysis to drive our decisions, and we formed consensus when we didn't entirely agree. And while most reps made an attempt to reach out to their stakeholders, my reservation was that not all reps did so. That could have been in part because we were specifically told that it was up to us to do the stakeholder outreach, that the district would not help. In the case of cluster reps, some principals were unwilling to forward the survey because it was not officially sanctioned by the district, although we asked several times that FACE help us to provide outreach. Still, I thought this committee was a process that we could be used as a model. However, the actions of the past 12 weeks have indicated that this district, once again, doesn't really respect its committees, its committee reps, the stakeholders they represent, and the time and effort they expend, that decisions are made executively. Superintendent Martin did not take the time to meet with the committee reps to discuss her reasons for rejecting the recommendation. She didn't even bother to tell us at all. We found out from the agenda post on board docs. And despite assurances that she would reach out to us personally, I did not receive an email or a call. As it turned out, this committee is a model after all, a model of how this district routinely makes decisions executively, that stakeholder engagement, not just with parents, but with students and employees as well, is not genuine, but just empty reassurances and a box to check off. You've heard the same from your LCAP planning team, you've heard it from your district advisory chairs, the list goes on. To reiterate Maya Angelou's words that Superintendent Martin quoted recently, people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. The district calendar committee and the stakeholders they represent feel disrespected. Maya Angelou also said what you're supposed to do when you don't like a thing that is to change it. Clearly, we peons have no power, so I ask you as the Board of Trustees to respect your stakeholders and change how this district makes its decisions.
Derek Berner, San Diego Council PTA. I was not on the committee this year. We did have 2 representatives. I will say we spent our money from our nonprofit to survey our members. We didn't get a huge response, but we did have a few hundred responses. 69% did vote for a post-Labor Day start. I never thought a calendar would be so controversial in this district. The members, our members on this committee were deeply disappointed that they were not consulted before this decision was made. And one person said, wow, this truly proves that San Diego Unified doesn't care about parent engagement. I hope that's not true. I believe that's not true. Superintendent Martin, I'm sure it wasn't easy, but I think this sends a message that is going to be very hard to correct. Thank you.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDEA. My comments are very similar to Derek's. We did survey our members. I, again, was not on the committee. I had 4 appointees that were part of the committee who were also divided. I've been honest for those I've talked to. Half of them were in favor of pre, half of them were in favor of post. I've shared personally. I personally think that the pre-Labor Day start is what's best, but my personal opinion isn't what matters in this situation. We surveyed our members and we had over 1,400 members respond to our survey. 59% voted in favor of a post-Labor Day, 49% voted in favor of a pre-Labor Day. In this situation, you're going to please 50% of the people and you're going to upset another 50%. Whatever calendar you choose, whether it's pre, whether it's post, it's very divided. People have their own reasons. People also get stuck in what they've always done. Growing up in San Diego, growing up here, I've always started after Labor Day. You had your last vacation, hurrah, 3-day week, and you started after Labor Day, and people get stuck in that and they go to that. And a lot of the comments that we heard throughout the last 2 years from parents, from teachers, were about wanting their vacation. So whatever their reasons were, that's what the votes were. The committee took hours upon hours to deliberate. And my concern here again is not what's good or bad, but the picture this is painting. And what we've heard from our members on the committee, what we've heard from some of the parents tonight, that this really was just a check in the box to say we've consulted We've talked with our stakeholder groups. I know it's been explained to me as not that, but that's what it's showing. I've shared the same concern when it came to the LCAP, that it was a check in the box and not true meaningful engagement. So my hope is that we don't continue to go back and forth, that we're able to find a calendar that works. I think we also need to put the priority on transitioning everybody to a common calendar, because that will make all of this a whole lot easier and give us a lot more flexibility.
Thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do we have a motion to support the recommendation?
I move to support the recommendation.
Okay, and do we have a second? Dr. Whitehorse Payne seconds. Board comments, questions? Vice President Pfizer.
I think that I think this is a difficult decision, given that there's so many folks that feel one way or the other. Looking at the calendar committee's recommendation to have a post-Labor Day start, and then I also think that it's not just about 14 versus 12, but it's also about, you know, the proportionality of the representation on the calendar committee. For example, there's thousands and thousands of teachers that were represented by 4 people, and of those teachers that were polled, Lindsay just shared, a vast majority of them, 59%, supported the post-Labor Day. And then we heard from the president of the San Diego Unified Council of PTAs that they polled parents involved in the PTA organizations across the district, and even larger majority, 69% of parents involved in the PTA systems in different schools support a post-Labor Day start. And so I think that, you know, that starts sending a message and a signal. And then one of the things that I started thinking about in deliberating about whether or not, you know, which one is better, is I was interested in data. But to the extent that I could ask for data and look at it and evaluate to make a decision is something that the calendar committee did to a far greater extent. And so at this point in time, I understand that there are pros and cons to both sides. But at this point in time, I'm going to have to come down and support the calendar committee. I'm going to have to come down and support the parents, and I'm going to have to come down and support the teachers. So I'm going to oppose this recommendation, and if it does fail, I would entertain a motion to adopt the committee that was recommended by the community.
Any other comments?
Sure. This is definitely a difficult one. I know I talked to someone from a school district in Virginia, and this wasn't about calendar, it was about start times, and they decided to have they had a district-wide conversation for a whole year about, you know, the pros and cons and different ways of doing it. And at the end of the year, it was just pretty evenly split. And so they ended up sticking with the status quo. Now, in this case, it's almost a little difficult to say what the status quo is, because we did move for a couple of years to the early start time, and we had the late start time. We've been very inconsistent in that, and I think that is one of the big problems, because one of the things that happened when we switched back and forth was people said we want a late start time, but then at the end of the school year, people were very upset about how late they were getting out of school, because obviously what people would like is, some people, would be a late start and an early end. So it you know, because you have to kind of look at both ends. And I realize, you know, there have been some sample polling. I know at one point when we were doing it one year, there was an online survey, and it came up with certain numbers, but, you know, these things are not completely scientific either, and so it's sort of like, well, I understand what people are feeling. Well, why are we doing this survey if we're not going to follow the results of the survey, or why are we having this committee if we're not going to follow the results of the committee? But I think my position at this point, I mean, I don't have a personal idea about absolutely what is the best time to start. I know that some people would like to have a much earlier start time in August. I mean, moving it back even a couple of weeks earlier than that. I think this is sort of a compromise between the two in terms of post-Labor Day and early Labor Day. But to me, at this point, I think what the district needs is consistency. I think people will get used to an early start time, and it won't continue to be an issue if we do it 1 week before Labor Day. So that's why I'm supporting this. I think we just need that consistency instead of going back and forth, and ultimately we have to make the decision here. If it had come out, you know, I realize there was a majority on these votes, but if it had come out overwhelmingly on one side or the other, then I would certainly support it, but it's pretty split.
It was my understanding that you surveyed the people who were not there, and it came fairly balanced. Welcome to the PTA president who said that he didn't know that a calendar could be so controversial. In the state of Virginia, they dictate, I gather, the start date for all the schools after Labor Day or whatever. I mean, that's what the last word I heard about that. So it's a big deal. I happen to have spent 10 years at Cal State U San Marcos on faculty there. And it was always an issue for me because the children, the students, young adults.
Big kids.
Big kids, yes. It was desirable for them to start early. And so this was, San Diego Unified was the only one that was dragging, if you will. And the data are borne out on that survey that most of the schools are starting now earlier in August, or they're starting before Labor Day. So I'm a little bit biased and tend to lean that way personally, and I'll just acknowledge my bias.
All right, so please bear with me. As with many board agenda items that involve highly emotional issues, varied positions, and multiple and complex ramification, this issue required research, outreach, and communication with the superintendent, staff, parents, stakeholders, advisory committees, councils, and bargaining units. I received a number of emails, text messages, phone calls, and had conversations. Well, the findings. As has already been mentioned, it was split, closely split in many situations, and leaned heavily in some or others. So across our committees, our councils, our stakeholders, and bargaining units had close calls even within their groups. The teachers recommended a late start, and the principals and our administrative unit recommended an early start. High school coaches and high school principals responded with a strong support for an early start. Classified units were split, with some favoring early, others favoring late, others okay either way. Our DAC, the CAC, the PTA recommended a late start. 3 of the 4 clusters in my area recommended a late start, with one cluster not taking a position, but one of its 4 high schools recommended an early start. The calendar committee recommended a late start. So the reasons given in the email responses that I received from our stakeholders, committees, and bargaining units were very similar to the reasons stated here tonight. My concern is more about acknowledging a process that is authentic and meaningful, fact-based and fair, promotes trust and understanding, and results in recommendations that are most beneficial to everyone concerned. While I understand the reasons for a pre-Labor Day school start and the positive impact an early start will have for secondary students, the athletic program, SAT and AB testing, that aligns San Diego Unified School District with the other districts in the San Diego County, as well as LA Unified, I want to acknowledge the dedication, commitment, and sincere effort on the part of the members of our various committees, councils, bargaining units in dealing with this issue. Specifically, I want to acknowledge the effort of the calendar committee and the much improved process that was followed, and the restructuring of its membership to better ensure representation from multiple stakeholders. We are a district that is focused on building collective capacity, meaningful stakeholder input, improved credibility, and authentic community engagement, requiring a significant commitment of committee members, their time, their expertise, and their emotional energy. I want to make sure that we acknowledge the work our committees are tasked to perform, and while we know they are providing recommendations that are advisory, I want to ensure that the committee process is supported and honored. We make better decisions when our communities and stakeholders are involved, and our committees are involved, and committees on which they serve are celebrated, and the recommendations they make are respected. With these recommendations, when these recommendations are not accepted, it is imperative that there is feedback and a conversation with our stakeholders and committees to explain the difference. As suggested in one reply from the chair of a stakeholder group, the committee process has vastly improved since I served on it. Kudos to the district and Cindy for the drastic improvement. As chair, I always knew and respected my role as advisory. Having the board or superintendent push a different recommendation always went down smoother when the superintendent, my district counterpart, and board members let me down easy with a recognition of the committee work, words of respect and kindness, and an expressed desire to continue building a partnership. I do want to acknowledge the superintendent and the staff for an improved process, and my vote tonight is more about an advocacy for an improved process that supports truthfulness, fairness, trust, and understanding, increased credibility, and quality recommendations than it is about this particular action. And for this reason, like Lindsay, I personally believe that a pre-Labor Day start would be best. However, as a board member at this time, who has frequently stated my support for community engagement and meaningful stakeholder participation in the decision-making process, I will be voting no.
Okay, well, there's clear consensus on the board, too.
Welcome to my world.
Superintendent, could you articulate your reasons for the recommendation?
Yes, as I said in my opening comments, there's every single issue that the committee looked at, from air conditioning to testing to the impacts to the school campus and being consistent. There were a list of issues, and I looked at every single one of them, but ultimately stability. Now going into the third year of doing this, so our families and our communities and teachers and actually wider community, the community college partners, can count on what our start date's going to be, and to stay consistent for 3 years running is important instead of flip-flopping back and forth. That was a major decision, as well as it's not just a high school issue, but specifically the issue of at the high school level, some of our students were giving through the Promise Scholarship, we're giving them scholarships to go to community college, and starting at this time allows them to start the community college on time instead of starting 2 weeks later. The start date of community college would be before our students actually get out of school, with a later start date as well. It was also part of my decision making.
Okay. Well, so, I mean, this sounds like a process that was done extremely well, I've got to say, and, you know, what the process revealed is that when people with good intentions, you know, throw themselves into trying to figure something out that's complicated, that what comes out are mixed opinions. And I think that's where we're at now, and again, if there was, I agree with Dr. Evans, if the process had produced clear consensus, I think it would have probably, you know, been easy for both the superintendent and the board to go along with the outcome of that process. But what it produced was the reality that people are split in this district. So I'm going to support the superintendent's recommendation as well. So please vote. Okay. All right, item H6. This is our proposal for selection of joint occupancy.
I'll move item H6.
We have a second?
Second.
And we've got one speaker, Lorraine Burley. Ms. Burley.
Good evening again. I know it's getting late. I'm speaking in support of agenda item H6. It's kind of nice to be speaking in support. This is great work. You have the Linda Vista Town Council involved and engaged during the project evaluation process. So good job, really good job. But I have to ask you, what about the Scripps Mesa joint occupancy apartment project? When will you consider redoing this process, especially after the recent Scripps Ranch AT testing debacle? Our district impacted our children and still continues now to promote this apartment project proposal that will impact our neighborhoods and the general public with the proposed apartment project. And remember, there's 3 strikes you can consider against this proposal. You need $20 to $50 million in Prop S&Z bond money, which is repair our school bond money, to relocate and disrupt one charter school, the Innovation Academy. You state that you'll make $34 million in net income, but this is an unknown income. There are no initial or ongoing expenses included with this number. And I really did appreciate in your recommendation that you specifically state in the fiscal impact that money that is guaranteed and money that is not guaranteed. So you were very upfront about the fiscal impact as well with the Linda Vista joint occupancy project. And going back to the Scripps Ranch, clearly Scripps Ranch is very upset about this project. There was no community group that supported this. Out of 5 different community groups, none of them voted to support. And you know, it really promotes a very negative relationship with the community. So, you know, like the Linda Vista Town Council, the Scripps Ranch Civic Association would like to help you create a better project. You know Bob Ilko's email address. Please email, set up a meeting, and we can start to make a better project that will work for everybody. Of course, we know you can't satisfy 100%, so maybe we could satisfy 20%. That would be better than minimal percent that you have now. So I really implore you to please try to work with Scripps Ranch for our teachers, students, and our neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Just a second. Please remind me what district function is currently at the Revere Center?
Revere Center.
He's going to get up to talk about that.
I mean, just currently right now, I can't remember.
Most of the staff that are there are food service, and there's our couple ROTC. There's some insurance functions there as well, but primarily food service.
Okay,
and this proposal actually accommodates the staff as well. So.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. No further questions. Please vote. Okay. Okay. Can we get a motion on the Epiphany Prep Charter School revision to their charter?
Oh, we skipped one.
Did I skip H7? I'm sorry. Oh, this is our information report on the Savita development, item H7.
And action.
And action, yep. Superintendent?
Thank you, President Brewer. Lee Dolgroff is going to come up, but this item, this is H7, correct? It's a proof of concept preschool through 5th grade elementary school that will go to the growing needs that we see in Mission Valley. And tonight's item specifically, it's an informational report on the proposed school within Savita and the site, the facilities, and the instructional program. And Mr. Dolgroff, did you want to say anything about this one tonight?
I'll be really brief and just acknowledge the work of Kimmy Lochtenfeld, Julie Martell, Maria Nichols, and the academic team, as well as real estate, facilities, legal services, and in planning the newest school. This is the idea here is to this item is to approve an addendum to the CEQA project EIR for a 500-student pre-K to 5th grade school in Mission Valley Savita development. It also approves the draft purchase and sale agreement with the Quarry Falls LLC for the properties to construct a school. This is going to be the proof of concept school. Do you want me to go through the presentation, or should we just, I don't know how long you want to?
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think we've seen it.
Yeah, okay. It's a proof of concept elementary school, very innovative, indoor-outdoor collaborative learning spaces, and to support the next generation learning environment.
Great.
It's in alignment with our cluster development plan that Dr. Martell was working on as well in terms of programs and STEAM and pathways. And this is actually a very exciting project as we go forward on it, and looking forward to the development and the work that Dr. Martell was doing around collaborating with facilities planning and construction and the instructional team, so that we're not working in isolation, but we're actually building programs instructionally that match the vision and the pathways that are so desirable to our students and families.
Bring students into our district.
If no motion is made, I move for approval, or has there already been a motion? I move for approval.
Okay.
It's action. It's action.
It's an action. We have a second?
I second.
And Dr. McQuarrie, please vote. Okay, now can we get a motion on item H9?
I move H9.
One speaker. Michelle Anderson.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good late evening.
Yes.
Michelle Anderson with the California Charter Schools Association. Good building. Support it. We support it. Thank you.
All right. Good comments.
Thank you.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay. Passes 5-0.
Came all the way up here for nothing.
That's right.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh.
Thanks, Steve.
She was so prepared for all your questions.
Do we have, I bet you were, do we have a motion on item H10? This is to approve our, yep, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. Approval. Dr. McQuarrie, second. If no questions or discussion, we do have one speaker.
Just a few questions.
Kathleen Doherty. Is Kathleen here? Okay. Okay, please vote. Okay, and we pulled item I-28 from the consent agenda. Sabrina, was that you?
That was me.
All right.
Must be.
Yeah. Sorry for keeping you guys here longer.
Not at all.
But I'm hoping that this is a mistake. With our budget problems of $124 million, you laid off all my Avid employees. But here we are going to hire out Avid employees. So I'm a little confused. I didn't think that you guys were allowed to replace employees that had been laid off with contracted employees. Am I misunderstanding something?
Can somebody speak to the item?
I need you to say a little bit more about that.
Okay, so we laid off all the Avid employees that were employed effective June 30th. There are no more Avid employees employed with the district, but we're signing an agreement for Teach and Tutor to provide Avid tutors, which are what our Avid assistants did, for the same schools that we're laid off from. So I'm hoping it's a mistake, and maybe, I don't know.
I think I have somebody that's prepared to speak about that. Is that correct, Mia?
Yeah.
Those funds are coming from a Department of Defense grant funding. It's a 3-year grant that was issued to support Avid structures and Avid programs, because they are moving towards Avid school-wide, and it's supporting the Avid tutorials within the programs at FARB, De Portola, and at Sarah High School.
Okay.
But I guess the question from...
So the question would be is, we have other people funded through grant programs that are employees.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look into it a little bit further, then I don't have the direct answer
So why don't we
I'll move to continue. I'll move to continue the item.
I'm not sure if I need Chief of Staff or somebody to I don't know if pulling it tonight allows us to go forward with the Avid program next year, so I need to get confirmation on that.
Okay. I mean, I made some inquiries. I didn't notice this until late this afternoon, so I did try to get some information before I came tonight, but I figured I needed to say something so that if this is a violation of our contract, we don't have to play that game.
Jessica Michelle, Labor Relations, is looking into it. We heard you talk about it today at 3:30.
Yeah.
There's no issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to do something.
Yeah, and
at this point, we're just not sure that the work in the contract has anything to do with what the para employees used to do. That's what we're looking into right now.
Okay.
Okay, but it sounds like we can't take action on this tonight.
I just don't know the impact of not taking action tonight and being able to offer AVID to all of our schools next year. I don't know the timing of that.
Yeah, as an AVID teacher, AVID tutors are AVID tutors.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my impression.
They do the same job.
Right.
Yeah.
And I looked up the assistant's position for the district, and it seemed very much in tune with what I was reading in the contract for what they're offering you guys. And I don't think it would eliminate AVID, because I know my great niece is at Correa and has AVID there, but no AVID
As long as, Mia, if they don't take action tonight, can you still, I thought I heard earlier today that if they don't, then you can't provide AVID next year?
We still need to provide AVID tutorials, but we weren't scheduled to launch the tutorials until mid-September. So we do have some time to pull it, and we can discuss it. And we can look
the
at
next board meeting is not till September 12th, so I just don't want to delay your ability to implement the AVID program, which is essential in our district, while we look into this issue.
I move that we table the item for future consideration.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can we vote on Mr.
Thank you.
motion?
Sorry.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, and with that, we are adjourned. No further non-agenda testimony? Nope? Okay. Thanks. You're disappointed.